across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, my friends. Good afternoon. Just gone 4 o'clock. We are live across the United Kingdom on the home of free speech and common sense. You're with Talk. I'm in an absolutely fantastic mood this afternoon. I'll tell you more about what Mr. Graham, Mike Graham, and I were doing this morning and fill you in. But we got to get straight to it because, as ever on the show, loads to talk about. Some great guests lined up. Our first one we've got at high expense and much difficulty. I'll introduce him in just a second. Stay quiet, Cole. But it's a bit of a it's an equal opportunities Tuesday. Ryan off on holiday again. Jodie producing. Faith doing the phones. Amy in control. And another woman who's... I don't know. Oh, hello, it's Luke. I didn't realise. There we go. So the A-team are here. If you want to be on 0344 499 1000, the only number you need, get your call into Faith now. You can send a WhatsApp note. No, what is it? A voice note to Jodie, who needs a bit of a pick-me-up. She was away for a week, then she's been at home for a couple of nights. She can barely keep her eyes open this afternoon. I'll let you add the rest up yourself. If you want to send a voice note, start with, are you knackered, Jodie? 0344 499 1000. Loads to talk about. Let's start with, I said it, with a man who puts the large in editor at large, a man who is taken the United Kingdom and the United States by storm. His brand new show, Harry Cole Saves the West, is on every night at 10 o'clock here on Talk. It's on Fox. It's across the world. It's just an honour to have you here, dear boy.
It's very weird when you're in such a good mood. What's going on?
The other thing that worries...
I'm deeply suspicious.
Well, two things. The first thing...
The world is out of balance.
You're not well. And
I'm 96% Sudafed right now.
And I saw you posted something that said Harry Cole saves the chest.
Well,
so
exactly. I mean,
thank you for proving.
No, well, I fight on. I fight to win.
And also, thank you very much indeed for sending the press to my door. Last week I came on your show and you asked, would you ever consider being an MP? And I went, you never know. And since then, it's gone somewhat nuts.
Well, you should talk in common sense, straight talk, straight answers. Because if you give a politician's answer, Jeremy Kyle, you get a politician's response, which includes the great and good of the world's media camping outside your door, demanding when you're going to lead them to the promised land.
Did you ever watch House of Cards on the television years ago?
Yeah,
and do you remember what he used to say? You might think that I couldn't possibly comment.
Exactly. You've got to touch the Francis Urquharts too, haven't you?
Have I?
Put a bit of stick about.
I don't know. A touch of the Francis Urquharts.
But one of my favourite comments after all of this was the just imagine what a Jeremy Kyle constituency surgery would look like when your constituents come and ask you to for help with their problems. You'd be like, get out, get out of my pub.
What are you? Sorry, it wasn't EastEnders, the Jeremy Kyle show. And let me tell you something that you don't know about. Your mother was on the Jeremy Kyle show for a DNA. No, I'm joking. Right, listen, loads to talk about. The legend is Harry Cole. Let us start, right, with, I mean, we're in the news business, okay, and box office, love him or hate him, is Donald Trump. The man has this afternoon addressed the United Nations General Assembly for the first time since 2020, and to say he hasn't held back would be the world's greatest understatement. Just to paraphrase, ladies and gentlemen, he's basically said, the United Nations is useless. It didn't help me whilst I was trying to stop 7 wars. He says, your countries are being ruined because, in my mind, the United Nations was formed to stop invasions, not to bloody well fund them. He then went on to say that recognising the state of Palestine is simply a reward for Hamas, and saved his favourite argument for 2 favourite targets of this station and me forever. He said that, and I quote, climate change and the desire for all of this green energy madness is nothing more, and I quote, than the biggest con job in history. And then, as if I wasn't having a fantastic Tuesday, and the reason I'm in such a good mood, this is what he said about Sadiq Khan. Have a watch, have a listen.
I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained.
Harry Cole, how did he manage last week during the state visit to keep a straight face when he sat with Starmer? Because that's viciously true, isn't it?
Well, apart from the fact that I don't think we're quite at Sharia law yet, despite the American fears of it. Look, he was on good behaviour last week. He wanted his grip and grin. He wanted a picture with the king. He wanted his parade. He wanted his carriage ride. He wanted his dinner. He's got all that now, so he's unleashed. He's unplugged. Now, the brilliant thing that happened at the UN today, so he popped up, and this was billed as a Donald Trump's going to tell some truths, but the auto cue broke. So he didn't even have his speech in front of me. The teleprompter, which I have to say, Jeremy Kyle does not rely on, and nor do I.
No.
But the teleprompter was broken, and so he opened his speech going, "Well, the teleprompter's broken," and so I don't mind that because it means I can just say what I think. So we're actually seeing Donald Trump not just unleashed but unscripted. And so if someone was trying to sabotage him, if someone at the UN was trying to sabotage him. You'd rather him on script than off script, and this is what we're seeing. I think, as far as I'm aware, it's still. I can look. I can't see a telly,
he hasn't stopped.
It's still ongoing.
He's still going. Let's talk about his vision for the world. He talked about his achievements of his administration. He said he had no help from them in his negotiations to end 7 wars. He says, your countries are being ruined because, in my mind, the United Nations was formed to stop invasions, not to fund them. Essentially, at the risk of saying the wrong thing, that's not an altogether inaccurate statement, is it?
The UN is a joke, you know.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you.
The Security Council is a joke. It's got China, it's got France, it's got Russia, it's got Britain, it's got America. China and Russia gang up together. America, Britain, France gang up.
It's like the Eurovision Song Contest.
Well, Eurovision Song Contest with AK-47s, yeah, sure. But it is fundamentally broken. You know, you've got emerging powers, you've got India, you've got Brazil, you've got all these big countries that are not involved in it. There's a rotating bit of, you know, they let the sort of, you know, made up countries have a little go once in a while, and they rotate it. But it's essentially it's a nonsense because Russia vetoes one thing, America vetoes the next. So when France and Britain and everyone was queuing up shamefully, I say tonight, said last night to recognise Palestine, the Americans didn't even bother turning up.
Nope.
Then why would we're not even going to dignify this as an answer. There's an argument that they're playing good cop and we're bad cop, good cop, whatever. But at the end of the day, the model is fundamentally broken. You've got, you know, emerging powers ganging up on established powers, the Western powers ganging up on the Middle East. It just doesn't work. It is a. But he is the first. It's a talking shop.
It's the first time I've heard a politician say what we've said for months and years on this station. The UN. Not fit for purpose, don't even know what it's supposed to achieve. He also said, which is absolutely slap bang the opposite to Macron and stuff. No, you cough. The poor man is so dedicated to his craft that he's here. He could be at home in bed, but he cares about you peeps. Keep listening and watching. Thanks. He says that recognising Palestine is a complete and utter reward for Hamas, nothing more. I was on air yesterday. I didn't get a chance to speak to you. I was appalled. I've said for many months that my problem with Starmer is that he flip-flops so much, and that I wouldn't mind if he'd stood up and said, I support Palestine, I'm anti-this, I'm anti-that. But 10 minutes after we launched that story, he's sending this thing on X yesterday saying happy Rosh Hashanah to all the Jewish communities. Yeah. And think, hold on a minute, what are you trying to be?
There's two things there. There's one, the timing, which was a separate issue. We were trying to book dozens of guests last night for our show. Harry Comes Over the West goes out at 10 p.m. on Talk. But we were trying to book dozens and dozens of guests, critical guests of the recognition of Palestine. And you know, lo and behold, lots of them were Jewish, and they couldn't. Not because they were cowed by their fears, but they were restricted by their faith. They literally, it's basically an equivalent of announcing something on Christmas Day or on Easter Sunday and expecting, you know, devout Christians or supporters of Christianity to come on the air.
And then people will tell me that he doesn't know what he's doing. That was obviously played.
And secondly,
callous, absolutely.
And secondly is right. There are 48 to 50 hostages still in terror tunnels, and we've seen some of the videos of how they're held in those terror tunnels in Gaza. What leverage do they possibly have now to have those hostages released? None. When you've said to Hamas, right, we're going to give you everything you've ever wanted and ever fought for and established. We're not going to quite wipe Israel off the map. We're going to give you the second best thing, which is a state next to it. There's no practicalities of how it will work. What are its borders? What are its population? What is its governance? What is its structure? Who are its diplomats? Yep. Are we going to bring Hamas round to Chequers for a cup of tea? And while we
Mate, I'm completely with you.
It is mind-bogglingly stupid. And the only only redeeming quality I think that can come from this is maybe there is some sort of backroom deal. Donald Trump and Keir Starmer spent an hour alone during the state visit. What did they speak about then? Was there some gentle encouragement to say, well, you put the pressure on Israel to surrender this way, and I'll put the pressure on if it's Donald Trump speaking, I'll put the pressure on Hamas to surrender, and maybe we'll get somewhere. But so often in this job and so often in the world is that when you look for conspiracies like that, it's more often than not incompetence.
I just think it's extraordinary. And Donald Trump, I mean, listen, Margaret, 3 cheers for Donald Trump. A great president, says what we're all thinking and doesn't care about weak, incompetent leaders. We should give him a knighthood. It can happen. I think he's brilliant, says Margaret in Birmingham. So we say, he said that recognising Palestine today, he said, is just nothing more than basically rewarding Hamas, rewarding terrorism. He said that the UN isn't fit for purpose. It spends too much time writing letters in your language and funding wars rather than stopping them. And then he took... Oh, go on.
No, well, I was going to say, not in the writing letters, but if you look at the UN, you look at the Security Council and the General Assembly now, where all the world leaders meet, the really toxic horribleness of the UN is it is riddled with leftists and extremists and Islamists at every level. And look at some of the stunts that the supposed UN charities that are working in Gaza are showing. They are doing the Hamas's dirty work for them. They are distributing aid. They are turning a blind eye to their aid being stolen by them. Ever seen a fat Hamas? Ever seen a skinny Hamas fighter? I haven't, because they're stealing the aid.
Completely agree with you. 0344 499 1000. Is Harry Cole right? What do you make of what Donald Trump said he then went on? This makes my... Do you wonder why I'm in a good mood? Climate change and arguing for green net zero is the biggest con job in the history of the world, said Donald Trump. Now, I happen to believe, and I had this conversation with one of my daughters the other day, who said, oh, it's about the future. And I flippantly will say, Harry, right, that's your problem, not mine. But I'm of the mindset, tell me if I'm wrong, that there are greater problems in the world and in this country right now than spending billions of pounds trying to achieve something that A, isn't achievable, B, the rest of the world, the biggest perpetrators of carbon monoxide, they're not interested, right? We've got this great thing, Mike Graham always says it. What happens when we get to net zero? What, do we get a medal or a chest to pin it on? We're screwed. Financially, we're screwed.
Street parties.
Street parties. Vegan, left-wing, green street parties.
Vegan day.
Vegan. Hey! Vegan day.
You can take the boy out the sun, but you can't.
You can send him to the States and give him an upmarket. It's nothing more than a glorified hack. Ladies and gentlemen, Harry Cole, that was brilliant. Vegan day. He's right, though, isn't he, about that as well?
Well, I mean, we're not going to get there. You just see it. We can see the 2038 election.
Vegan day.
You like that?
Oh, I'm using that all day, man.
You can see the 2038, 2042 election being fought on. All these politicians going, oh, we just need a little bit more time. Just one more wafer-thin slice of net zero.
And we'll get there.
We'll get there. The promised land. It will become one of these things that's just always just...
But Mike was right. Mike was right. When you get there in 2050, not that we're going to, because people hate heat pumps, they're too expensive, and electric cars are a pain in the backside. When you get there, what happens? What does somebody say? Well done, United Kingdom. There's a medal. And
China laugh at us. India laughs at us.
Russia
America laughs at us.
Everybody laughs at us.
Everyone laughs at us.
And on a serious note, my friends, and this is what I hear from you on 0344 499 1000. Everybody is laughing at us. Then he took aim at Sadiq. He don't like Sadiq Khan.
He does not like Sadiq Khan, no. I think it's well established that he does not like Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan doesn't like him either.
No.
No love lost there.
No, Sadiq Khan doesn't like anybody. He had a go at Farage yesterday, saying millions of Londoners are going to stay
he's sort of powerless, isn't it? He runs London, but he's not doing a particularly good job at that. You know, he's obviously missing the cut and thrust of Westminster, given that Keir Starmer's going down the Swanee pretty quickly. You've got Andy Burnham, who thought it was a good idea to go and run Manchester and get his name in the lights up there. Sadiq Khan went to run London, got his name up lights in there, blue lights mostly. But he then
doing great this afternoon. Take more Sudafed. We love this, Harry Cole.
And then they're all looking at Keir Starmer, just started to circle the drain, and they're going, oh, I better get back involved in this. So they're starting to now make their names a little bit again, but they've all got to find seats. So
it's amazing. What do you make of all of this Trump stuff? Do please let us know. 0344 499 1000. I'm not keen to talk too much about this because I believe he's a figure of fun with absolutely no policies who, frankly, don't do that. Isn't worth the time. I was watching the BBC, not that it's too biased, coverage. Donald Trump is on every network addressing the UN, and no, the BBC are showing live coverage of Sir Ed Davey addressing the Liberal Democrat conference in Bournemouth, where his main thing seems to be that Britain will have US-style mass shootings under Farage, and I will do anything in my power, says Ed Davey, to stop Nigel Farage ever getting near Downing Street.
Absolutely crackers speech. Look, there's obviously a small constituency in the United Kingdom who viscerally hate Brexit, viscerally hate Nigel Farage. They hate Donald Trump. They just, they want everything to go back to the way things were when it was nice and they were in charge. And
Egan Day.
The Egan Day, and they wore hemp and all that.
Yes.
That lot. The sandals and socks, and the people that wear EU flags like their capes, and they wore little berets on the march in 2017. That lot. They want that back. But this idea, I mean, Ed Davey, the guy's got, what, 70 MPs?
72 MPs, and I genuinely can sit here and tell you, hand on heart, pal, I don't know what he stands for.
And
it's
arrives at his conference playing a brass band. He spent the election on a wind sail or whatever he did, and he was being splooged, and he was all like, he's just.
Hear me out. What about the last appearance before the general election the day before? He dressed up as John Travolta, and somebody dressed up as Olivia Newton-John, and they left the rally sitting on the back of a car singing Grease songs. That's a bloody joke, isn't it?
I mean, I'd phone Prevent if I had to watch that.
I think you might be right. Prevent, but they won't get back to
you.
But
he said, look, imagine Donald Trump and Nigel Farage Britain, where gun laws are rolled back, so schools will have to teach our children what to do in case of mass shooting. It's just gibberish.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so desperate for a soundbite, so desperate for attention. But he shouldn't be like that. He's got 70 MPs. If he utilised those 70 MPs, think how much carnage that Farage causes with 5 MPs. Yes, he's on 30% of the polls, but he should be really, 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 really using every tool in his armour, which is Parliament, to cause merry hell on this government.
He's a figure of fun, isn't he?
Oh, he's just...
That's it. That's all he's
a nice enough bloke, but he's not cut out.
Well, nice enough bloke.
I'm not cut out for the job.
I'm going to say something else. Love your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. He was one of the several Liberal Democrats who in 2010 or 11 or whenever it was sold their soul at the altar of ideology to get a seat in government. He was the post office minister. Why is no newspaper or no news channel like the BBC, who blows smoke up his very difficult backside, why are they not saying, hold on a second, thousands of people's lives were ruined by the post office scandal and you were the minister in charge? Why are you not taking responsibility for that? There's all these japes and fun.
I do wonder whether there's some ambitious Lib Dem cutters and thrusters sitting behind him. I mean, it takes a lot to find a cutter and thrusting Lib Dem, but I mean, I can't imagine him fighting the next election.
Can you not?
No, this guy's so low energy. He's so beta. It's like he's just simps from the sidelines. I imagine there'll be someone who thinks, right, the Greens are on the march, Jeremy Corbyn new party on the march, Labour are going down the Swanee. We could really aggressively take some space in. I wonder, if he's doing that job in 12 months' time, I'll buy you a delicious sandwich.
Yeah, you heard it here. Harry Cole, 0344 499 1000. Couple of other quick ones. The Home Office today losing an appeal to challenge the block on asylum seekers' deportation to France, which basically means, in layman's terms, one in, one out's not working at all, because we've now got courts prepared to screw Starmer, who's your archetypal left-wing human rights lawyer.
10,000 in, 3 out. Are we on now?
It's just a joke, man, isn't it?
I mean, look. The good thing is, though, that this will, if this helps to radicalise Labour in the same way it radicalised the Tories when they were in power, against the fact that the courts are completely infiltrated and and manipulated by asylum lawyers and immigration lawyers, then that's a good thing, because the only way you're going to change this is if you change the law. And there's only one party with a stonking great majority, and there's only one Home Secretary who's new in the job. And I've got some time for her. I think she could.
Shabana.
If she wants to, her patience for this sort of thing, I imagine, is going to be pretty thin.
0344 499 1000. Just finally, before you go, the Epping Forest Asylum Hotel protest sparked huge debate, massive debate, sparked. Quite rightly, debate across the world, it seems. The asylum seeker who caused all of this is today being sentenced to 12 months in prison after sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman in Epping. Weeks of protest. He basically said that he didn't realise that rules were so strict in the United Kingdom. The judge, Christopher Williams, hurrah, said the asylum seeker posted a significant risk of reoffending and sent him to jail. He said, and I quote, "I'd like to be deported now."
Bye.
Can anybody then have a go? All those lefties who go, oh, the poor man. No, he sexually assaulted an English girl, and his quote, tells us a lot, does it not? I didn't realise this was the sort of way women were supposed to be treated. And when people, and I want to have this conversation, I've got a green or a room through there full of women, and I say this from the bottom of my heart. The people who say that men are coming to this country with no respect, no understanding and no interest in what's right and wrong get called all sorts of names. There is a living example that that is true and proof by that guy today. I didn't know it wasn't allowed. Are you joking me? I don't want that in my society. Does that make me racist?
I couldn't put it any better. You've gone from good mood to righteous, and I think there's a reason for that. 12 months seems a little lenient.
I just deport him today. Why am I paying taxes for 12 months for that piece of crap to stay in jail? I'm sorry, I don't have it. I can't have it.
I think you're completely right. We're going to get into this on the show tonight. We're talking to some of the Epping protesters, you know, who've been besmirched as, you know, Nazis, far-right, thugs, EDL, blah, blah, blah. They're just normal Essex people who have
mothers and fathers who want to protect their 14-year-old, OK, from being attacked by a man who, and I repeat, said, I didn't realise that wasn't allowed in the United Kingdom. Harry Cole, despite your illness, your professionalism shines through. Back on air tonight, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
We've got Zia Youssef from Reform.
Yes.
We've got the Epping. Organisers. We've got some American. Obviously, we're getting into this UN stuff. But I can exclusively reveal who our guest is tomorrow.
Go on then.
I'm going to do it.
I've sorted out Brexit. Now it's time for breakfast. Tomorrow night on Save the West. Who's on?
Save the West. Boris Johnson.
And have you got some questions primed?
Well, talk listeners. Ping me your questions.
There you are. There's the challenge.
Mr. Harry Cole on Twitter. Send me your best questions for Boris Johnson. I will be putting them all to them. We've got him for a long time. It's going to be a big interview. 10 o'clock tomorrow night, Wednesday night.
I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that anybody comes on the show. Peter Mandelson came on and was sacked.
Exactly.
Boris Johnson by Thursday morning.
Jeremy Kyle came on the show, and it's most newspaper coverage he's had in years.
I'm going to take that on the chin because we love you. Thanks for coming in, Harry Cole. Listen, if you want to be on drive time, 0344 419 1000. Call now. Text 87222. And don't forget, Harry Cole saves the West or even his chest tonight, 10 o'clock. Back in 3.
Taking all those gifts from Lord Ali, of course, and then we've seen scandal after scandal, as you say. Even recently, Angela Rayner, which we exposed her wrongdoing, Peter Mandelson with his Epstein relationship, and now we're seeing this donation scandal, and it is a scandal. You cannot take donations from sources without declaring them to the Electoral Commission and then to the parliamentary authorities. This is wrong. It is clear what has happened. It needs to be investigated, and if found guilty, sanctions imposed.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome along. This is Talk Drive. It's 4:28. We're live across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense, and I'm absolutely buoyant. My next guest will disagree with most of what I say, but I'm especially happy that Donald Trump has called out the nightmare that is Mayor Khan. Neil says he'll have a mark on his head now. He's been called out globally. Bobby says the Liberals are in panic mode. They can't leave reform alone. The language Ed Davey is using concerning Farage and Trump is incitement. It's been less than a week since Charlie Kirk's funeral, and Ed Davey's at it again with his bad-mouthing even. Bob's in Chiswick, a nice affluent area in London. Hello to... I don't know. The West's attitude to climate change is like General Melchit's attitude in Blackadder Goes Forth to the men going over the top. Ronnie Cornett. JK. Starmer cares nothing for Palestine or the conflict. The reason he is recognising a Palestinian state has nothing to do with the conflict. It's simple maths. The UK has a relatively small Jewish population, whereas the Muslim population in this country continues to grow. This is all about votes. The man has no moral compass. Paul in 587 222. Start your message with the word talk. Before we go to Matthew Torbett, the only lefty allowed on this show is a friend of mine. I love the man. Aaron's in Basingstoke. You're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon, Aaron.
You're right, mate. I listen quite often. There's something you said earlier about how they should be deported straight away. If they do a crime, they should definitely go to prison and then be deported immediately after, because they shouldn't get away with not serving their time if they've done the crime, you know?
This is Aaron, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the Epping Hotel Asylum seeker. Now, you will remember this story. The Bell Hotel in Epping, there were lots of things written about how there was a migrant hotel. Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to bring Matt in, Matthew Torbett. There was a hotel in Epping, and suddenly there was big noise about, asylum seekers, and it's next door to a middle girls' school, and a girl allegedly being sexually assaulted. Mothers and fathers, fact, went on the streets and said, we're concerned. No, it was labelled far right. People were bussed in, left, right and centre. Everything happened. They want a court order to have the hotel closed. The Home Office thought it would be a good optic to go against the people of Epping. Today, that piece of crap has been jailed for 12 months after sexually abusing a 14-year-old girl. Hadush Gabasalesi Kebatu, I'm probably wrong, been staying there for literally a few days. He arrived on a boat. Today, the Ethiopian was found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault, attempted sexual violence, including a girl to engage in sexual activity and harassment without violence. The district judge said the asylum seeker, significant risk of reoffending, and jailed him for 12 months. That piece of crap said, and I quote, I didn't know, Matt, that was not allowed in England. Now, you and I would have different views on several things, and one of the most contentious stories at the moment, or comments, is about this very thing, which is the people who say there are a large number of people coming to this country who do not have the same culture, the same beliefs, the same understanding, the same morality, and thus they are going to be troublesome within our society. Now, if I'd said that on radio 5 years ago, I'd have been deemed to be the worst racist and hateful far-right thug in the world. Today proves that's true. Absolutely true. In many cases. That man said, and I quote, I didn't know you weren't supposed to put your hands down a girl of 14's trousers, for God's sake. It's appalling.
He does, and he's not kidding anybody with that. I think you will get wrong-uns in all groups. That isn't to say that there are certain cultures that may treat women differently. I do think we have a homegrown issue with the way that we treat women as well. I think if you look at the rise of figures, certainly misogynist figures like Andrew Tate, we have a real issue in the West with that as well. That isn't to discount anyone's true fears. On this, he will rightfully be deported upon his release. Section 23 of the Borders Act says that the Secretary of State has to put in a request to deport him. He will be gone, and rightfully so. The reason why I think he should be jailed here and not deported now is you have to feel punishment if you do wrong.
Yep.
And my concern is we do not have a returns agreement with Ethiopia.
Yep.
Therefore, he can just go free willy-nilly and do whatever he wants back in Ethiopia. Now, some people say, I don't care, I don't want him here. The point is, he needs to be punished and then he will be deported. The reason why is because you have to be serving a minimum of 12 months, and that automatically triggers the deportation upon your release.
It does put into perspective, though, and it infuriated me, Epping. It infuriated me because I don't believe that parents taking to the streets because they're devastated about the concern for their teenage kids have a right for this government to call them all far right and go to court to try and get them silenced. I thought that, I mean, we talk about the optics of this government, we've talked to you many times about Labour. I thought that was an appalling decision by the then Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. I don't know what you thought.
I think they tried to buy time because there's nowhere to house people. And that is a succession of both Labour and Conservative governments, not just proceeding over a failed asylum system, but also failure of building of houses and all manner of other things. Therefore, we go, no, there's nowhere to put these people, and also we've not got to grips with our borders, therefore there really is nowhere to put the amount of people coming in.
But when this new government came to power, I know you're having a hard time at the moment, so I don't want to kick you while you're down about this. Angela Rayner and the government talked about building 1.5 million houses. We found out the other day on this show that Steve Reed, who replaced Angela Rayner, who, by the way, have you heard about her new company? She set up a housing company called Wrong Move. Just thought I'd drop that into the joke. Steve Reed, we discovered last week, stands up and talks about 1.5 million houses and fought literally against the building of 273 houses in his constituency. Now, I'm not taking just an aim at Steve Reed. I take an aim at every single MP who stands up and says we do need more houses, right? But when it comes to their local constituency, they would listen to local concerns and they don't do the same locally as they talk nationally. It is fair to say, though, that part of our housing problem is because this country has many, many unhoused migrants who are getting a leg up social housing. Why? To the detriment of British people. This is what I keep saying.
There's an element of truth. So there's two things there. I don't like hypocrisy in politics.
No,
and the only defence I will give Steve Reed, and I only remember this bit of information because I interviewed with Steve Reed many, many moons ago, and in my research for the interview I found that Croydon was the most densely populated area of London. Therefore I can understand his concerns, therefore, about 275,000 houses in his constituency.
But my point about MPs is quite relevant, isn't it?
Yes, no, there's a total hypocrisy that people always call for YIMBYism and then revert to NIMBYism when it comes to their own constituencies. With regards to the immigration stuff, it does have a part to play. However, in a piece of work I've been looking at doing at the moment, if we had had net zero migration since 2010, we would still have the need for 2.5 million houses. That is the ridiculousness, not just of population growth, not just of people coming in. We haven't built houses. And you can go all the way back to Thatcher in the 80s, not replenishing the right to buy stuff. We have not built houses in this country probably for 50 years, maybe not seen since the era of Wilson or Macmillan in the Tory and Labour governments then. It's a failure on everybody's houses that has been in Parliament.
I'm going to leave your favourite bit to last today, Trump. Let's talk very quickly, if we can, please, about this recognising Palestine yesterday. Again, and I do try to look at all sides. Some people will say that I don't. I only see a man, again, who is so keen to try and placate all sides. So I read over the Sunday, I saw the video, him saying we're recognising Palestine. Some people jumping up and down saying this is virtue signalling, this is rewarding terrorism. Others saying no, it's really important. And then we see his deputy, David Lammy, go on television and say it was pointless, actually, it's not going to make any bloody difference at all. And then yesterday, in the middle of my show, Rosh Hashanah, you know, a massively important Jewish festival, he's got the front to send out on X, oh, happy Rosh Hashanah to all my Jewish friends and all the Jewish communities, when it would be fair to say, would it not, that him recognising Palestine and trying to please the Jewish population as well, which he hasn't, he's completely alienated them, is, as that caller, as that WhatsApp said, purely about votes. It's about fearing that he is going to lose the Muslim vote. And there are 5 independent MPs, or 4, already behind Corbyn in the Commons, who won by standing up and saying what's going on in Gaza is a disgrace. Nothing to do about their local communities. That's their right. People voted for them. But can you honestly tell me that recognising Palestine, if you're Keir Starmer, is anything other than do about trying to save votes? Because I think it's disgraceful, man.
I think there's slightly more layers to it. There may be an element of that, only he knows. I think David Lammy's probably right in that it isn't going to shift the dial. Many Palestinians would say, well, he should have done this maybe a decade ago. I don't think it's rewarding Hamas. I think it is...
But it is. They said it's justice to our cause. That's what they said yesterday.
Yeah, Nick Griffin said vote Jeremy Corbyn. Doesn't mean Jeremy Corbyn is in bed with the BNP in 2017. People say this sort of stuff, right? I've been to Israel and Palestine. All sides would prefer a two-state solution. The vast majority of people want a two-state peace. They want to live in peace on all sides, right? Bar the extremists in Gaza that support Hamas, which you will get. The problem we have is we have no sway on the international stage.
No,
the only person that can change this is Donald Trump in one phone call. That is the only person I think that has the power to be able to shift the dial. Therefore, I think this looks like we're doing something about it and showing support in some way to those.
I think we look weak in the world.
But we have no power, Jez.
But how frightening is that? This is the United Kingdom.
No, come on, we've always been the tail on the American dog. This has always been the case. I don't think it's a particularly Keir Starmer issue. I think also, if he hadn't have recognised Rosh Hashanah yesterday, well, that would be worse. And you have to remember, Keir Starmer is married to a Jewish woman.
I know, but do you not think he just tries to be too many things to too many people and ends up hacking everybody off, Matt?
Listen, what you're essentially asking me is Keir Starmer's political judgment horrific? Yes, it is. Yeah. Absolutely, of course it is. And actually, what he tries to do is play all sides. He manages to annoy everybody. That has always been the way, unfortunately. That's the measure of the man since he's been elected.
And let me remind anybody who's tuning in thinking, is that a lefty? Yeah, he's my mate. This is the man who on election night, and I haven't got the clip, but it's brilliant, right? Matthew Talbot, everybody was going, oh, Labour are in. And he looked down the camera, I don't know what channel it was, I'm not going to mention it, and said, this is as good as it's going to get. You foresaw this coming, didn't you? You said he doesn't have any antenna, he doesn't have any gut DNA about what makes a good politician.
I trusted very little about the operation. I'm looking forward to the meetings I will be having at Labour conference to try and change that with certain individuals. And
what happens to the Labour Party? Does he go? You've told me he won't fight the next election. Is Andy Burnham the answer? He won't get a seat in Manchester because Reform will absolutely win any by-election in Manchester.
No, there are 4 options for Andy Burnham, 2 of which Reform could never win, ever. They are far too safe, even in this climate, and there are several seats that are available. If we were to...
Is Burnham the hope?
Yes, the only hope.
Is he?
The only hope. I think you take Denton and Gorton, right, very quickly, this talk of Andrew Gwynn standing down. I can tell you with fairly good authority the Speaker has signed him off. The Chief Whip is sat on the form, from what I can gather. And there's a reason for that. There is a negotiation currently underway between Number 10 and Andy Burnham's camp. Andy Burnham is very ambivalent about this. I spoke to him on Monday. Listen, if it falls his way, maybe we'll think about it. He's not pushing for it, he's not speaking to MPs, but he's aware that there is a current moving...
Does he beat Farage?
I don't know. He gives us half a chance.
Right now, nobody gets a chance.
I think he is the best political communicator on the left that would give us half a chance of...
Who's the best political commentator or communicator on the right?
Nigel Farage, simple as. He's the best political communicator in the country. I think where Andy Burnham could beat him is being authentically working class and understanding the issues affecting working class people. Andy Burnham was called a racist during Corbyn's era for pointing out that maybe, just maybe, immigration to this country, when it comes to low level...
But he stood before and got battered.
Yes, and he disappointed me, because he tried to appeal to all sides and wasn't authentically himself and became an identikit politician.
Yeah.
I therefore went for Jeremy Corbyn. I was Andy Burnham through and through. That man got me into politics and saw something in me that he believed in, and that's why I will always return the favour.
You look in your eyes when you speak about it like this is somebody that you believe in. And interestingly, when Farage did his speech yesterday about deportations and his view of saving that money, right, Benedict Spence came on, and Benedict is not a massive Reform fan, and he said something I was really interested to hear. He said, you know what, I've criticised Reform a lot, but he said today is the first time I've heard authenticity and organic realness from a politician who stood up and said, I don't care who disagrees with me, I don't care about how much I'm going to be attacked, this is what I believe in. You are saying the left's equivalent is Andy Burnham.
Yes, and I think Andy has learnt from 2015. He's gone up to Manchester. I actually think he's probably found confidence in putting his own ideas forward and going, this stuff works. And I'm telling you now, Jez, I'm worried about what's coming down the traps for all level of reasons. He is the Labour Party's only hope of having half a chance at the next election for me.
I'm glad we got through an interview without you asking me if I'm going to be an MP. It was nice seeing you at the Reform conference. That surprised me. I turned the corner and there was Matthew Talbot.
I knew it was inevitable. That's why, Jez. I know it'll happen.
He's got friends who say, would you work for me, haven't you?
Yes. No, lots of people have said, I know you get on with Jeremy. Listen, I never keep anything off the table. I've got all sorts of offers. I'm going to America to help the Democrats in November. I've just had a text for coming on air. Do you want to come out to Libya? So that's going to be hilarious and see what's going on.
Will we ever see him again? We love him. We love him. He's going to Libya. Say bye-bye to Matthew. Listen, thank you, Mum. Great to see you.
You too.
I'm not even going to talk to you about Trump because I haven't got time, but...
Very quickly, no, I want to say, and this is very serious, we can laugh about this, he's ridiculous, and if he wasn't president, he'd be the funniest person in the room. We had a man shot to death 2 weeks ago. When you're parroting this very dangerous stuff that isn't true, I think that's quite unfair from somebody with a lot of power.
I think he's right about Sadiq Khan, don't you?
No, that's my point. If he wants to talk about the green stuff, that's fine. He does not want to put Sharia law into London, and you're actually painting a target on his back, as one of the texters said, and I think that's
we've got a statement for Sadiq, actually, very quickly.
Good.
Well done, Jode. We are not going to dignify his appalling and bigoted comments with a response. London is the greatest city in the world. Unless she gets down. Safer than the major US cities, and we're delighted to welcome the record number of US citizens moving here.
Criticise him on the policy. Absolutely, there's loads of that to go on if people want to. Don't go for him for stuff that isn't true, because it is dangerous, and I don't want to see anybody on either side dying for their beliefs unnecessarily.
Good man, good spur. So he's off to Libya, then he's off to...
we'll see.
Then he's off to America, then he's going to pretend to be Andy Burnham's mate, but you guess one day it might be with me. We're coming back at 3 on Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Amazing day on the home of free speech and common sense. Welcome back. It's 4:45. So Donald Trump stood up at the United Nations. He hasn't spoken there since 2020. What do I tell you? He basically said, you're a busted flush, you're useless. I've stopped 7 world wars and all you do is send letters and pontificate. He said that the UN was formed, I should say, to stop invasions, not to fund them. He took aim at Sadiq Khan. You heard what Matthew Torbett said there. Don't like Sadiq Khan, but I take his point. He also, if that wasn't enough, he then took aim at climate change and said it was the biggest con job in the history of the world. Loads and loads to talk about there. Loads to talk about with the Labour Party as well. 0344 499 1000. This is the day the Epping hotel asylum seeker jailed. This is the man that all the reaction at Epping, all those mothers and fathers quite rightly going out and saying we're concerned about our daughters and our teenage kids, and everybody went, oh, this is outrageously racist. Well, today the man's been jailed for 12 months. District Judge Christopher Williams, take a bow, said the asylum seeker posed a significant risk of reoffending. The asylum seeker, one Hadush Gabaselassie Kabatu, said, and I quote, I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that to women in England. That's why you shouldn't be in the country, and I don't care who has a go at me. Deport him now. 0344 499 1000. We'll head to Woking. Neil, you're on Talk Drive. Couple of minutes. What you got, pal?
Hey, Jeremy. I've been thinking about that issue that, you know, I know the judges have to be very lenient in this country in general because of the pressure of the lack of jails and the cost to the taxpayer to keep each, you know, prisoner behind bars. Why don't we pay another country just like we did France, some crazy amount of money, like to keep the asylum seekers from coming. Why aren't we paying another country to use their jails, which are a lot cheaper? And
I have a different view. I take what you're saying. I get really hacked off, and I'm being completely honest here, whereby we do not seem, right? And actually, there's breaking news. The Home Office will seek to deport asylum seeker Hadesh Kabasadasi Kabatu following his 12-month prison sentence. It is understood. Some people will say, you committed the crime here, rot here for 12 months, and then you go. Others will say, why should we pay tax and look after you, you piece of rubbish? You need to go back. And other people will say, oh, you can't do that because we've got a returns agreement. I'm sick and tired, though, and I'm being honest, Neil, when I hear people, not you, say, we can't process people, we'll get somebody else in another country to do it. We can't have a detention centre here, we'll send them somewhere else. And now people like you are saying, oh, let's send them to another jail. We should be able to deal with this ourselves, and we should have the courage to say, I don't care whether I've got a returns agreement, you're getting on a plane and going back to Ethiopia because you are not our damn responsibility.
Oh, no, I'm saying, why don't we make an agreement with a third-party country, not the home country, because, as you say, they can go off scot-free. I'm talking about another country where we have an agreement for incarceration, specifically for these kinds of people.
I'd build more jails, but there we go. Thank you for your call, my friend. Great to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. Let's cross now. Oh, by the way, this is great. You know, Trump stood up at the United Nations and basically trashed everybody and everything. Stu in Hale Zone says, now I know the reason why Starmer didn't go to the UN today. Because Trump is there and Starmer knows he can't hide behind a state visit, and it'll be fair game for Trump after you recognise Palestine. The man is a bleeding coward. We're going to change tack. So much about the royal family in the news. Today, across every paper, will King Charles banish Fergie? Revelations about Epstein, more about Harry. And to be honest with you, the first lady of the royal family isn't Princess Catherine. It's Kinsey Schofield. Good afternoon.
I would never. It's all about Princess Catherine. I love her. I will be there to clean her feet if she needs it, okay? Oh, I know where my place is, Jeremy Kyle.
Well, no, your place is with me on this show because you are the biggest pull, and we love... That doesn't sound right. We love having you on. Thank you. Where do you want to start? Fergie. We talked yesterday. Daphne
Speaking of feet.
Well, 7 charities have now distanced themselves. There was a very interesting article in the car on the way in. I wanted your take on this. I wanted to start with this. Half of the country is saying, right, King Charles, banish the Yorks. They're a disgrace. Prince William is known to favour this option. They shouldn't be seen with any royals at anything, private or whatever, ever again. Still, they say, royal sources, that Charles is reticent to do this. Is this because he is concerned that they will go rogue, in your mind, like the Sussexes did?
I do think that that's a legitimate concern, but I also think that you make a lot of promises to your parents on their deathbed. And I think that he likely promised Queen Elizabeth that he would take care of her son, Prince Andrew, his brother. I think a lot about that, I think a lot of it is loyalty and guilt. I do think that there should be concerns about what Prince Andrew and Fergie could spill. I mean, can you imagine what Fergie knows about Princess Diana and that wild period of royal chaos in the 90s? But ultimately, when it comes to King Charles, he has a very soft heart. And I think that he just wants to protect his brother.
There's a lot being said in the papers today that William wants his dad to be much firmer and that this is causing the rift that we were talking about that doesn't really exist yesterday. It's a crucial time for him. It's difficult for the king, but I know this is difficult. The man's ill, he's suffering with cancer, he's going through medical treatment. He needs... I'd kick him out of Royal Lodge, but you're right. Are they cast adrift going to be more of an embarrassment or a worry to the royal family than if they're kept under control? She said today to be devastated and wishes she'd never met Jeffrey Epstein. I will repeat what I said to you yesterday. I think there must be hundreds of very famous people across the world quaking in their boots. Final comment on this, and I'm going to go to a break, and then I want to talk about other stuff. What would you say about this whole thing? Would you throw them out or keep them in?
He's never going to throw them out. Keep your heads down, Andrew and Fergie. Stay out of public sight completely. That's what I would do. I would stay basically locked up in my house, COVID 2.0, and I would just stay away from any photographers. And they live a life of privilege that could be yanked away from them. I would just keep a low profile.
We love having you on. Don't go anywhere. Are you happy to stay for a bit? It's only 8 o'clock in the morning. She's got nothing else to do, bless her heart. 3 minutes time. We'll be back with Kinsey Schofield. Don't go anywhere.
The number of foreign nationals on universal credit is estimated to be about 1.3 million people, right? Yeah. That's not a small amount of people at all. Right. And that's actually increased by 40% just over the last 3 years. And if you look at the overall cost of it, not just with universal credit, but with other benefits as well. If there is a foreign-born national inside just one household, that's costing taxpayers upwards of £1 billion a month, which is like £12 billion a year, which is more than enough to take a penny off income tax.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 4 minutes to go to the news. Kinsey Schofield, bless her, in LA. We've talked about the Royals. You think the Yorks should keep their heads down, but you feel that the King, despite many people in this country wishing he did kick them out, will not do so. Can we talk about America, your president? Oh, my God. This afternoon at the UN, saying what so many people in this country, or certainly viewers and listeners of this station, feel, that climate change is the biggest con job in history, that he stopped seven wars and the UN does nothing but send notes. And then he took aim at our Mayor Khan by saying he wants to bring in Sharia law and he's an absolute disgrace. He spelled out his vision for the world and basically said, you're ruining all your countries, you're all pathetic. I mean, you've got to hand it to him. Love him or hate him, he don't care, do he? He don't care at all.
No, I mean, sometimes I wish he could just find a topic and stick to it.
No teleprompter today, apparently.
You listed off a lot of stuff that I don't even know where to begin. When it comes to Sadiq Khan, I'm almost afraid to say something because I don't want to get arrested over there. You know, these days you can get in trouble for saying something that the government disagrees with. But yeah, I think that if I were to move there, I wouldn't want to live in London.
No, well, listen, London, OK, Matthew Talbot said he thought that the personal attack was unfair, but let's be perfectly honest, only 1 million out of 12 million people voted for Sadiq Khan. He's more interested in diversity and inclusiveness. Knife crime is abhorrent in the City of London, one of the worst places, and all he talks about is Americans want to come and live here. No, mate, they don't.
I honestly have to wear a leash when I visit London. I have to wear a leash over my phone because somebody will, if you're walking around on your cell phone, somebody will just snatch it right from your hand. So I wear a leash on my body with my cell phone.
There you are, Sadiq Khan. Answer that from Kinsey Schofield. Just very quickly as well, Jimmy Kimmel, that big furore about Jimmy Kimmel, the chat show host, axed about a week ago by a group of stations I used to work for, Sinclair. It's returning after the comments about Charlie Kirk. However, certain stations still not playing ball. He's not in the clear, is he?
No, 70 stations, and these are big city markets, won't be airing Jimmy Kimmel. That's Nexstar and Sinclair still refusing to back down. Sinclair saying, we'll play you. We just expect you to apologize to Charlie Kirk's family for your comments, and we would appreciate a donation to Turning Point USA or to Charlie Kirk's family as an I'm sorry for what you said. Jimmy Kimmel basically saying that Republicans, Donald Trump supporters, are responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, saying that we were trying to convince ourselves that we weren't this man that did kill Charlie Kirk. And it's an irresponsible comment. It's a lie. It was incorrect information. And this is not what drives me crazy about the 400 celebrities writing a petition to support him. Is this isn't a freedom of speech issue. When you worked for Sinclair, when I worked for Nexstar, we signed contracts that said that we would stay in line with their values. Yeah. And if you jeopardize those values, you lose your job or you are punished for it. And this was a temporary suspension. The guy was put in timeout for a few minutes and everybody's losing their minds over free speech. Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck while trying to exercise his free speech. I'd say the ultimate that is much more of a loss to me than Jimmy Kimmel getting a week off to sleep in.
I completely agree. I'm sorry, I could spend all day talking to you. We love having you on. We thank you so much, and I value your words. Hello to my old boss at Sinclair, Bill Butler. Big shout out. I used to work for him. Listen, news at 5 is on the way. Richard Tice on the way afterwards as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good afternoon. Welcome along. Hour 2 of Drive for Tuesday. We're across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense. My name is Jeremy Kyle, and I've an all-female cast of me today. Jodie is producing because Ryan's on yet another holiday, doing a fantastic job. She's not stressed at all. Amy is smiling through the pain of wind in her gut. She's pushing the buttons and taking the mickey. And Faith. What can we say about Faith, the newest recruit, the associate producer, is fantastically talented and wonderful. Taking your calls, 0344 499 1000. Can I just say, most people are wanting to talk. Oh, good. Terrible. Excuse me a second. It's all right. Just open the microphone. I'm just having a cup of tea. Most people are absolutely either enraged by Donald Trump's unteleprompted speech at the UN, or they are absolutely glorifying it. Let me sum up and tell you what he said. He stood up and he basically said, well, look, frankly, all Democrats are nightmares. I'm the best person in the world. And then he got on to his sort of vision of the world. He launched an incredible attack on the United Nations, claiming that it had done nothing to end the wars. He's ended 7. It was funding the migrant crisis, and it basically was a sort of hand-wringing waste of space, which many people agree with. He then turned his sights on Europe, warning that our countries were going to hell because we couldn't control migration. He then took aim at our own mayor in London, Sadiq Khan. He said he wants to impose Sharia law and he's the worst mayor in the history of the world. And then he delivered the coup de grace, in my humble opinion, by saying that the UK's energy policies and most of Europe's concern with climate change were a complete bleeding joke and it was the biggest con job in the history of the world. Which makes you wonder, as Harry Cole said an hour ago, he must have loved the state visit. He must have sat on his hands and thought, I'm enjoying all this glory and all this pomp and all this pageantry and I'm not saying anything, because he has absolutely stuck one on Starmer, who didn't go to the UN. Oh, gutless coward. Ian, on a voice note, what did you make of Trump's speech?
Hi Jeremy, it's Ian from East Grinstead. I've just listened to Trump's speech to the UN. Some real home truths. He told it as it is. What a great man. If only we had a leader like that. Someone who's actually got presence and has a vision rather than just a spineless twerp. We might go somewhere. What an inspiration he is. Like him or loathe him, he talks well, he talks common sense, and he shoots from the hip and says it as it is. Our politicians could learn quite a bit from him.
Well, there, imagine a politician who doesn't have to read a script. 0344 499 1000. What do you make of Donald Trump's words? Do you agree with him? Does he show guts and courage, or is he barking mad? Look, wouldn't it be wonderful to have somebody who has the ability to stand and not worry about critics or what's going to be written or what's going to be... Oh, there is some... Oh, it wouldn't for me to say that's Nigel Farage. Also, the other thing today, which is sending people understandably mad. You remember the Bell Hotel in Epping. You'll understand and remember the story of mothers and fathers taking to the streets because there was a migrant hotel. There was an alleged sexual assault. Today, what's his name? Hadoush Gabri Selesi Kabatu, 41, has been found guilty of sexually assaulting a young girl. 2 counts. He attempted sexual assault, sexual activity and harassment. Today, District Judge Christopher Williams jailed him for 12 months and said the asylum seeker posed a significant risk of reoffending. That has created furore. We've just found out that the Home Office will seek to deport him because of this. Meanwhile, his barrister, Molly Dias... Yeah, am I paying for you, am I? Mr. Kebatu's firm wish is to be deported as soon as possible. I don't care what his wish is. Yes, he should be on the first flight this afternoon. Others will say he should stay here and face it. People like... I don't know who Molly Dias is, but I tell you what I find appalling, and I'm going to say this for the whole show. There are people who come on this station and other stations and write things in newspapers and try and explain to the leftists or the people who think that anybody, you know, with a central or to the right is some sort of Nazi, as we've all been called. Many people will come on here and say, look, the problem with all of these men that are coming to this country is they come from a different culture, they have different values, they don't treat women well. And all those people go, oh, it's not fair, these people are coming from countries that are war-torn, we need to show them respect. This man, this piece of crap that's gone to jail for 12 months and is going to be deported, said, and I quote today, I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that to a young woman in England. I think I'll be deported now. That, my friends, is why we have a problem, and that needs calling out. And I'll take anybody on the left on who wants to tell me that's unfair and he's come from a war-torn country. No, he hasn't. He's a sexual deviant who shouldn't have been allowed in this country in the first place. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Bring me that tea and I'm choking. We say a very good afternoon to the former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, former Conservative MP for the Ribble Valley, Nigel Evans. How are you, dear boy?
I'm in a better state than you are by the sounds of it, Jeremy. I'm fine. I'm absolutely superb. And let me comment on this last bit first. I think that he should be deported, but I think we should do a deal with his country and make sure that he serves the full 12 months in a jail in his own country.
Listen, I would say this about your government. I would say this about the current government. I don't understand why more time is not spent trying to cut these deals so that we can send these people home. Because as I see it, it's just us who ends up with everybody, and that is fundamentally wrong. I thought the most annoying... No, annoying is the wrong word, Nigel. Frightening thing was that comment, I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that in this country. Well, that, yeah, we both shrug our shoulders, but that is why there is an issue. That is why so many people are angry. And I've said this to you before, the very women who quite rightly stand up and talk about women's rights, I don't hear them talking about that 14-year-old girl's rights on the beach in Dorset. I don't hear them talking about, young girls when a transgender person with a penis comes into a change room and strips off. They don't talk about those women, and I think those women need to be protected. And when a man says that, it is perfectly feasible, is it not, without being labelled everything in the world, to say, this is not acceptable that men like that are allowed unvetted into our country. They're not part of our culture. They're not part of the morality or anything that... I don't understand it, Nigel. I genuinely don't understand that. To me, I don't understand how anybody can argue against what I'm saying on that.
No, but I think times are a-changing. And, you know, a couple of years ago, you couldn't say anything about levels of immigration coming into the UK without being labelled a complete racist. And now everybody, from what I can make out, agrees that something needs to be done about immigration. Listen, Jeremy, I've just watched Donald Trump from beginning to end, and he nailed it on immigration. The United Kingdom is doing sweet little to stop these thousands that are coming in to the United Kingdom. We've got to do something. And I just thought he called it absolutely right. I don't care how embarrassed Keir Starmer's going to be about his comments today. I really don't care.
I think that's why he didn't go to the UN, isn't it?
I really don't know. But to be frank, he absolutely nailed it on immigration into the UK. He nailed it on immigration into all the other European Union countries as well. You had Ursula von der Leyen just sitting there listening to those comments. I could only imagine what was going through her mind.
Let's play the clip if we can. Oh, no, actually, we haven't got a clip on Europe. But actually what he said was, he actually said, right, no, we have. Sorry, Nudge. Let's play this. This is what Donald Trump said to the UN about European countries and migrations. Have a listen, have a watch.
UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world, trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our social safety net. I'm not mentioning names. I see it, and I can call every single one of them out. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody is ever, and nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out.
He's dead right, isn't he, Nigel?
You're spot on. It started under Tony Blair when we had a number of European Union countries join for the first time. And if you remember, there were blocks put on those people coming into Germany and France, funnily enough, but they did come into the United Kingdom. We were told there would only be 16,000 and there was over 1 million by the end of it. And no Prime Minister since Blair did anything about it. And quite frankly, it's gone from bad to worse. The tipping point has been reached, Jeremy, and it took somebody like Donald Trump to stand up in the United Nations and to basically call it out. Anybody who refutes what he said is completely wrong. He's got it absolutely right. And the peoples of the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, they've had enough. And that is why you are seeing the rise of political parties which are to the right of what was normally would be expected to be elected in those countries, and the people are now having their say. I think it's far too late for the left now to do anything about it, because I think the people will want to ensure that new administrations are going to be elected in those countries.
Yesterday we had the rather unedifying sight, and whenever we talk about Palestine, there will of course be a difference of opinion, and I accept that. I understand that. I'm a father of 6, I think it's 6, and what I see in Gaza is appalling, right? I also have Jewish friends. I know what October the 7th did. I spent many hours on this station talking about how the Jewish community, my friends still, their kids still can't wear blazers in the high street. That doesn't mean, by the way, for all the people who are now going to send me hate that I'm not bothered about, by the way, online, that doesn't mean I like what's going on in Gaza. But the only democratically elected state in the Middle East is Israel. And as one person said to me once, a Jewish friend of mine, we get sat down when you get told the facts of life. We get taught about what happened to 6 million of our ancestors. And I think that's heavily involved in the DNA of Jewish people. However, I'm not Netanyahu's biggest fan. I sort of try and judge the situation. But to me, the way I was brought up, You don't negotiate with terrorists. On Sunday, Starmer put out this slippery sort of, we recognise Palestine. Quite how that has any importance in the real world. To me, it's virtue signalling. But worse, it sends a message to the Jewish community. So that two-faced weasel decided yesterday in the middle of my show to put on X, Happy Rosh Hashanah. I get the name wrong, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that one. Happy that, and you know, I love all the Jewish people. My wife is Jewish, and have a great holiday, and sorry for this and sorry for that. And you sit there and you look at it and you go, oh my God, you are trying to be everything to everybody, and the reality is, Keir Starmer, you end up hacking everybody off, and it worries me. We talk about our standing in the world. We are a laughingstock, Nigel, and it's getting worse, isn't it?
Yep. I mean, I assume that the recognition of Palestine by Keir Starmer was nothing more than throwing some red meat to some on the left of his own party.
Yep.
I mean, he's in deep trouble because there are many within his own party who just simply have been battling to get Palestine recognised for decades. You've got to remember, Jeremy, on October the 7th, 1,100 plus Israelis got murdered by Hamas. These are the people who are in charge of Palestine. What was Sunday all about? I haven't got the faintest idea. The government should have been using leverage against Palestine, and they used absolutely nothing by recognising them. Listen, there again, let's go back to Donald Trump's speech. He just said you're basically rewarding terrorists.
Shall we? Oh, I'm loving this. Let's play the clip. Donald Trump, he nails it on Palestine. Have a listen, have a watch.
Everyone knows I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities.
I mean, I suspect that most people would understand his approach. There will be the pro-Palestinian mob that walk around London in their scarves and probably don't know where it is. And I understand. I think we all want peace in that region. But I think when you look at our Prime Minister and you wonder, I mean, I said it yesterday, you wonder what genuinely is in his authentic heart or soul, because I don't think there's anything. I think he blows with the wind. I think he deals with things on a daily basis, and he managed in 24 hours to please a terrorist organisation and hack off the Jewish community and then insult the Jewish community by pretending to, you know, say Happy New Year to you all and, you know, I love you all. And they're all going, well, hold on a second, what are you saying? And I think that this comes through in so much of almost everything he does, Starmer. And we had Matthew Talbot on, and he said time is literally running out for this guy. Literally running out for this guy.
Yeah, he would have been better advised to have said nothing to the Jewish community following the gaffe that he made in recognising Palestine as a state on Sunday. And, you know, I'm like you, Jeremy. I hate to see anybody suffering in the way that people are doing in Gaza and in that region generally. But, of course, a lot of them are suffering at the hands of Hamas in that area. So let's just see what could be done there. And then let's go back again to Donald Trump, because basically he threw the ball back at the organization where he was speaking, and that is the United Nations.
Yep.
Please tell me, what have the United Nations done in that region for the last few years? You know, they're in receipt of well, £65 million from the United Kingdom goes to the administration. There's about $1.5 billion from America goes to help fund the United Nations. That's not including the amount of money that goes for peacekeeping. Please tell me, what has the United Nations been doing? It has absolutely been slipping on the job. I think it is one of the most useless organizations, and thank goodness that it has taken Donald Trump to tell them in their own building how useless they've been.
As if he thought that was enough, we've still got the two best subjects of the day. Donald Trump then took aim at London's Mayor, Sadiq Khan, criticising him and saying basically he's the worst mayor in the world, and he wants to introduce Sharia law. Now, some people are saying this was too personal, others are glorifying it, but because we're doing it slowly, this is the clip of the Donald on Sadiq Khan. Have a watch, have a listen.
I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained.
Nigel, before you respond, Wes Streeting has just now hit back on X at Donald Trump for his accusations against Sadiq Khan. The Health Secretary shared a photograph of him and Khan sitting on a bench at a London Underground station alongside Jas Athwal, the Labour MP for Ilford South. It says that Sadiq Khan is not trying to impose Sharia law on London. This is a mayor who marches with pride, who stands up for differences of background and opinion, who's focused on improving our transport, our air, our streets, our safety, our choices and our chances, and we are proud that he's our mayor. Your response, Nigel Evans?
I think Donald got it wrong on the Sharia law bit, but he got it right on him being useless, and I think he is useless. There are record levels of crime going on. I mean, we've just experienced several days of the tube strikes in London, and the mayor did absolutely nothing, even though it was within his power to do so. And quite frankly, you can walk around London faster than you can with their new 20-mile-per-hour limits on driving. And you've got the police out there with, I saw in one of the reports, with speed guns on one of the days when the tubes were on strike, instead of trying to catch some of the people on bicycles who are stealing phones off people. I mean, it's absolutely, the priorities are completely wrong, and he's in charge, and the buck stops with him.
Well, as spokesman Khan has just told us, we're not going to dignify his appalling and bigoted comments with a response. London is the greatest city in the world, safer than all major cities, US cities, and we're delighted to welcome the record number of US citizens moving here. Before I let you go, you're a very busy man. We appreciate your time. This next story is one that sort of, you did politics for 30 years. I don't want to make it personal. I came to the office about 3 o'clock. Every single network is running Donald Trump's speech, except for the BBC, which is glorifying in Sir Ed Davey's speech to the Liberal Democrat conference in Bournemouth. And we talk about people going too far. Maybe Donald Trump was wrong about Sharia law. I don't think he was wrong, as you say, about his criticism of Khan. Ed Davies decided to go on the front foot against Nigel Farage because he's obviously way ahead in the polls. And he says that if you vote for Nigel Farage, Britain will have US-style mass shootings in school under the Trump-like Nigel Farage. Now, you, a Tory for 30 years, I know, see what is happening, and you've listened to both sides. What do you make of Sir Ed Davies' comments today? Because for me,
I think it's possibly one of the most irresponsible, stupid and juvenile comments I've ever heard any politician say about another politician in Britain, and the bar's very high there, I got to say. I mean, it's absolutely absurd to think that if people vote for Nigel Farage and he becomes Prime Minister after the next general election, that we're going to turn into a country where there's going to be mass shootings around. I mean, it is completely absurd. They're running scared. It's a real shame that he doesn't look at some of his policies to try and address what the issues, why people in Britain are so fed up. It's as simple as that. I mean, he's a complete joke, Ed Davey. I've always thought that he's a complete joke, and today he's proven it.
I want him to be, I want somebody to ask the question at the BBC instead of blowing smoke up his backside as to why he doesn't take responsibility for being the minister in charge of the post office when he was in coalition government, and take some responsibility. Very quickly before we go, are you becoming more and more frustrated with your leader, Kemi? Are you getting any nearer to defect? Are you going to be the next Tory to defect to Nigel, or what?
Well, I've made some suggestions to Kemi for her speech at conference. I think I'm looking at the local election results, Jeremy, and they're not getting any better for the Conservative Party. They're decidedly not good. They're not good for the Labour Party either. As you know, we've got this big by-election coming up in Wales, which is going to be a huge test for the Labour Party if they lose. And at the moment, they're running third in a seat that they have never, ever, ever lost.
And what party are leading?
Kemi's it's Reform and Plaid Cymru are the top two, and then it's the Labour Party. But this is in a seat that is traditionally, Caerphilly has always been Labour. But Kemi has got this one opportunity at the party conference to really put her mark on where the party is going. And as I say, I've made some suggestions, particularly on immigration, and I just hope that she takes it and runs with it. She doesn't run scared from people within the party who say, oh, you can't leave the European Convention of Human Rights and blah this, blah that.
And if she doesn't run with the ball, will you? If she doesn't run with the ball, might we hear of Nigel Evans being the next Tory defector?
Well, let's just say, I'm going to put it like this, Jeremy. I want to see Kemi succeed.
Okay.
And I'm praying that she's going to do it. But I've been a member of the Conservative Party for 50 years. So for me to ever consider joining another party would be absolutely, it would be seismic.
I really appreciate your honesty, and I hope more than anything that your book sells, because it's taken so bloody long to write. We love having...
Chapter 23.
Good boy. Am I in it yet?
No.
Get off. See you very soon. The excellent Nigel Evans, 5:25, coming next, the Deputy Leader of Reform, answering criticism today from people who say Farage's plans to deport, saving 235 trillion, what a billion even, what a load of old rubbish. Richard Tice next on Talk Drive.
The number of foreign nationals on universal credit is estimated to be about 1.3 million people, right? That's not a small amount of people at all. And that's actually increased by 40% just over the last 3 years. And if you look at the overall cost of it, not just with universal credit, but with other benefits as well. If there is a foreign-born national inside just one household, that's costing taxpayers upwards of £1 billion a month, which is like £12 billion a year, which is more than enough to take a penny off income tax.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome 5:28. Can I salute the ladies? Salute the ladies and Luke. He's a bit of a lady anyway. Well done. They're all doing very well. 0344. I'm joking, Andrew. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. The thing that's got you going is not Donald Trump. You're all saluting him to a degree. The thing that's got you going is not Sadiq. It's not even the net zero. What's got you going, quite rightly, is the story about the Epping Hotel asylum seeker today, jailed for 12 months. Hadush Gabri Selesi Kebatu. He'd been staying at the Bell Hotel in Epping. He sexually assaulted 2 young girls. Today he's jailed for 12 months. People are up in arms and saying this is a disgrace. He should be deported. Others are saying he should go home and serve his sentence. The one thing I want to tell you, and you're watching footage on YouTube, this is what this piece of scum said today. I didn't know you weren't supposed or allowed to do that in England. I don't know your rules. That's why you shouldn't be here, my friend. That is why so many people are saying, why are we letting uneducated men, unvetted, into this country? And all those people on the left who have jumped up and gone, it's very wrong to say that. These people are coming from war-torn countries. No, he came from Ethiopia, knows exactly what he was doing. And if he doesn't, it adds weight to the argument, my friends, because I've been told all sorts of things about how we say this and it's wrong and it looks bad. If you bring men like him who are misogynistic and sexually deviant into this country without vetting them, you are asking for trouble. That is not racist, it is not far right, it is factual. Alan in Liverpool, never mind free this and free that. Immigrants should be told our laws on being here. Jeff. Good afternoon, Jez. Every parent who protested peacefully the safety of their kids, who feared for them every day, should be apologised to by everyone that called them far right, because today their fears were justified. I absolutely salute those parents of Epping. I agree with you, Jeff. Dana says, Jez, the Epping migrant got 12 months in prison. Nobody has mentioned the fact that Labour are changing the law so that people don't go to prison for sentences of 12 months or less. He wouldn't have even been jailed at all when that comes in, says Darryl in Blackburn. And finally, Colin Rice says, Jez, that man knew exactly what he was doing. In Ethiopia, the limit is 18 too. He is a bare-faced liar. Fern in Glasgow. Illegal immigrants should serve prison time before being deported, as then if they have a UK criminal record, they should be unable to ever try claiming asylum again. Listen, so many people. 87222 on the text. Start your message with the word talk and your calls. 0344 499 1000. It's 5:30. We say a very good afternoon to a very busy man who's got no time usually for anybody other than me. Richard Tice, hello.
A very good afternoon, Jeremy. But I'm a bit confused because I thought all of these people were brain surgeons.
No,
or engineers, or software developers. Surely there's something wrong here.
No, Hadush Gebrselassie Kebatu 41. He'd only been here 24 hours, Rich, a few days, and no, he wasn't a brain surgeon. He was actually going to sign on. You got that wrong. No, he came here because we'll give him stuff for free. And because he came from a country that didn't, in fact, teach him that it wasn't all right to stick his, I'm not being disrespectful, stick his hands down a girl's trousers on the beach in Dorset. He's been jailed, and he said, I didn't know that wasn't possible. Richard Tice, this is living proof that these people should not be allowed in this country, and it is not far right and it is not racist to say so, is it?
It's not, and people are very concerned, and they will be actually even more concerned that such a lenient sentence has been handed down for such a heinous crime, because if that had been a local, then I suspect the sentence would have been substantially longer. But of course, under the sort of two-tier sentencing, there are different rules applied to these asylum seekers.
I would only say 2 words to you. I'd say 2 words to you, Richard. Lucy Connolly.
Yes, there's those 2 words, and you could then, I mean, the whole thing just beggars belief, absolutely beggars belief. And we're just being let down by so many elements of the establishment. It's truly appalling.
Yesterday I had Zia Youssef on, major policy announcement, 11 o'clock with Nigel Farage, about how he wanted to save £240 billion by basically saying to people who were allowed to stay here with no desire to work, signing on, bringing family members, that you are not going to be allowed to be a drain on a benefit system that is failing, sadly, now people who want it, and seemingly providing for people who have never paid in and don't deserve it. And what I found yesterday, speaking to many people, was that people, even if they weren't a Nigel Farage fan, said, finally, we got a politician who's authentic enough and has a big enough pair to stand up and say, this is what I believe. A few papers digging into Nigel today saying the maths don't add up. Do you want to answer that at all?
Yeah, look, obviously, the maths is a function of how many people from what we call the Boris wave of the vast numbers of primarily non-EU nationals that were given the right to come here over the last 4 years. And that's over 3 million people. We sort of estimate somewhere between perhaps 800,000 and 1 million of those would, if they're given indefinite leave to remain, which would then qualify them to claim benefits, they would sign up, they wouldn't work, they'll bring a load of dependents here who wouldn't work, wouldn't speak the lingo, wouldn't contribute. And when you do the maths, all of a sudden over a 20-year period, guess what? You end up at hundreds of billions of pounds. It's a vast number that would bankrupt the nation. And there's no point nickel and diming it to the nearest $500 million here or there. That's not the point. The point is, as you've just said, that Nigel and Zia at that press conference says, we're not going to tolerate this. And by the way, we're going to act like a normal nation where you can apply for a 5-year renewable visa. You're welcome to do so. We encourage that as long as you've got some skills to add in a highly qualified job. You're going to work. You're not going to claim benefits, and you're going to contribute. You're going to speak the lingo. You're going to help in your local community. And that's great. And you do that in numbers that we can sensibly absorb. And then if you stay here beyond 7 years, you've then got the right to apply for citizenship. And all this is what normal, sane countries do all around the world.
I was telling the story yesterday about when I went to do the show in America in 2011, 12 and 13. The process of getting a visa, a V1, I remember it was utterly, I mean, it took months. And basically what we're saying is, you know, I mean, I guess the big question I want to ask you, and I asked Thea it yesterday, we know about the establishment, the blob, all these people who seem to want to put bars in the way. How difficult? I mean, leaving the ECHR, dealing with the benefits problems, it all sounds great. You couldn't do that in 5 years, could you? Or could you? Am I missing the point?
Absolutely right. We're very focused on getting the draft legislation before a general election so that we're ready to go. A whole load of this stuff we've absolutely got to start doing in the first 100 days. But here's the point. What we need is a thumping majority so that the establishment and the blob realise that this is what the British people want.
But Starmer's got a massive majority and he's completely hamstrung and unable to make a bloody decision whatever side it's on, it seems.
Well, you say that, but actually the decisions they have been making are truly terrible.
Yeah.
Whether it was on the winter fuel allowance, whether it was on the budget, whether it was on Chagos, whether it's on this ludicrous idea of recognising the state of Palestine and thus rewarding a bunch of terrorists. So every decision they've made has been truly terrible. Their employment rights bill and the like. And there's essentially nothing we can do. And what he's doing is it's destroying jobs, destroying the economy. Net stupid zero is making everybody poorer.
Your mate Trump agrees with you. He says net stupid zero is the biggest con job in the last however many years. Did you see that?
There you are, you see. And he's right on that. So, look, we can get this stuff done. We need a big majority. Equally, will we make mistakes? For sure. But let me tell you, we'll get a lot more right than we get wrong. And is it easy? We're not saying it's easy. Is it worth doing the hard stuff and working harder than anybody else to get it done? Absolutely. And that's what we are totally determined to do.
Benedict Spence said something very interesting to me. And I've got one other thing after I've said this yesterday. He said, I've been a critic of reform, but what I saw today was an authentic politician who has it in his DNA to believe in something, standing up and saying something that might be unpopular with half the country or 40% of the country or 60%, but him saying, I believe this is what I am putting before you, vote for it or don't vote for it, but I tell you every sinew and part of me will, if you elect me, be behind making that happen. And I think that's quite an attractive thing to people, Richard.
And Nigel is authentic, we're all authentic, we tell it as it is, and sometimes people don't want to hear about it. But as Nigel quite rightly said yesterday, we need to have a debate about this. And we need to be honest with people. The country is going bust. Yeah. We cannot afford tens and tens of billions of pounds of welfare to pay people to sit on their backside at home whilst others are setting their alarm clock, going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just patently not fair. And we like to be fair in the UK. That's part of our core Christian values, frankly. So we're just telling it as it is, and I think that's why we're leading in the polls. And there's no other nation in the world that allows people to come in from everywhere with no work criteria and allows them to sit on their backside and claim a whole load of benefits and then bring a whole load of people dependents in.
I know you have to go in a minute and a half, so I wanted to save the best for last. This afternoon, the BBC only showed one thing, not Donald Trump's speech as every other network was, the speech by Sir Ed Davey, who leads a party called the Liberal Democrats. Ed Davey, in his keynote speech, accused your leader of plotting to relax controls on firearms and said that basically Britain will have US-style mass shootings in schools under Farage. He will privatise the NHS, destroy the British countryside in a Trump-inspired revolution that cares nothing for ordinary people. Paul says, is that not sailing perilously close to hate speech, bearing in mind what Lucy Connolly said? You're smiling, but Ed Davey, Britain will have US-style mass shootings. What the hell, man?
No, but he's become a joke figure, and he does these ridiculous stunts. We've seen it before, whether it's him dripping around in a wetsuit or making a farcical speech. He's actually obsessed. We need to check whether he's okay, actually. I'm worried for him because he's obsessed with Nigel. He quoted Nigel's name over 30 times in his speech. And I just wonder whether he needs a bit of help. Is everything okay, Ed?
Well, I can offer that. The other thing I should say to you is yesterday, even more frighteningly, or maybe it was today, I lose track of time, he said I wouldn't rule out a coalition with Labour to keep reform out. How do you respond to that, Richard Tice?
Well, that's why I said earlier, we need the British people to recognise that we're the only party that can stop mass immigration, that can cut grotesque welfare bills, save a whole load of government money, and get the economy growing and make people better off. That's why we're leading in the polls. And I think that, we're give or take 18 to 20 points ahead of the Lib Dems. So they'll blather away, but I think the British people will see through it. And unless we change course, we are literally going bust.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Great speech, and I know you're busy, man. 20 to 6. Thank you very much to the Deputy Leader of Reform, Richard Tice, MP for Boston and Skegness. 20 to 6. What do you want to talk about? Trump? Ed Davey in a wetsuit? He just said just drips on. Maybe you want to talk about the asylum seeker that caused all the trouble in Epping. Jail today for 12 months. Should he serve the sentence here and be deported? Should he be deported immediately? Should he be strung up by what's got... I cannot... It's that phrase. I didn't know you weren't supposed to do that here. Get out of my country. I can't, honestly. Go on the left or get all angry. Get out of my country. Back in 3.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Kev is here from 7 o'clock, and of course, Harry Cole Saves the West, brand new show stateside and in the United Kingdom on the YouTube channel, and Talk tonight from 10 o'clock. And tomorrow, a massive, massive guest, an hour exclusive nearly, with Boris Johnson. And Harry said it earlier on the show. If you got a question you'd like Harry to put to Bojo, responsible for the Boris wave, I think it would be fair to say, Harry Cole on his YouTube, send it into Talk and we will get that done. To the phone lines, loads of you trying to ring 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Epsom. Chris, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hi, Jez. I'm really pleased to speak to you. First of all, I've got to compliment you. I've got a couple of things to say. First of all, I've got to compliment you, not just on your show, but what you did at the Reform Conference. I was there, I saw you and David interacting, and it was fantastic. And the thing that nobody's come up with is the two biggest rounds of applause at that conference. The biggest one was for Lucy Connolly.
Sure.
But the second one, do you remember the black guy that got up and said that he'd come into the country legally and he'd had to work and he had to prove this and do that and do the other to be able to become a member of our society? He got the second biggest round of applause.
I would love the very people who think it's acceptable to say, under this general banner, that if you have a problem with unvetted men coming into our country to commit crimes or sexual assaults or sponge off our welfare system, take up houses or hotels and drain us, that if you dare to mention that, you're some sort of right-wing thug, Nazi, fascist idiot. Get out of the M25 bubble. Go north, go south, go east and go west. Go to cities or towns where this is happening and ask hard-working Brits who have exactly the same opinion. And for all the people like me and Mike and Julia and Kev and Ian and this station and other people who are prepared to talk about this, who get slaughtered. I don't give a toss about being slaughtered, mate. I've had more SHIT than anybody in the world in the last 6 years. I happen to believe that we're at a seminal moment, and I happen to think it is absolutely right to be able to have that conversation. And sticks and stones, I don't give a damn about that at all. I care about that 14-year-old girl on Dorset Beach. Did you hear what that immigrant said today, the illegal immigrant jailed? I didn't know you weren't allowed to do that. Get out of my country, I'm sorry. How is that wrong for me to say that? How, Chris, is that wrong?
It's not, Jeremy. And the thing is that when people keep calling us racist for raising the flags and doing that, that's why I mentioned the black guy that stood up at conference and said that he came legally, that he done all the paperwork, he paid his money, he's paid into the system, he wants to be a part of the community.
It's not about Chris, it's not about the colour of your skin. I tell the story every day, the Polish makeup artist, my Bangladeshi taxi driver late tonight, who's amazing. I don't give a damn where you come from. I don't. I'm just not going to swallow the BS that says that every single person that comes here is escaping a war-torn country, because that's rubbish. And I will not accept, and I don't think the British people will anymore, OK, that it's to the detriment of people who have paid for a service. And once you get to that point where the population are suffering to try and wipe the backsides of people who either don't appreciate it, abuse it, or throw it back in our faces, then you have trouble. And that's where we're at. And it's not a lie to say that, mate, is it?
No, and exactly. Now here's a really, really salient point, Jess, which is being missed by everybody. Starmer's disgusting recognition of Palestine without a mention of the hostages yesterday, right? They have opened a Palestinian mission in East London. That will become an embassy. As that becomes an embassy, they will be allowed, under international law, Starmer's favourite, they will be allowed to bring in diplomatic bags, which are not searched or checked at customs, all right? Now, you've got Starmer that's recognised Palestine. Hamas have already come out and said it's the fruits of October the 7th, all right? This is absolute madness. He must have ignored, again, the security warnings from 6 and 5 about doing that. the same as he did with Mandelson.
I agree, and I have to cut you short, but I want to say one thing. I know that Palestine is a very emotive subject, and I repeat always when this comes up my hatred of what I see in Gaza. But if you look at the Hamas manifesto or the documents that control it, one of their aims is to obliterate the Jewish state. That is a fact. Chris in Epsom, thank you. Let's head quickly if we can. Sorry, mate, to cut you off, but really busy. Great call. Mary, couple of minutes on Talk Drive. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. Well, I've been thinking about all these disgusting sexual attacks and everything.
Yes.
And instead of paying people to entertain them by blowing up balloons and making animals, etc., and all the stupid things they're paying for, why not get educated people in to lecture them on how they should behave while they are in this country, and that they don't treat women or girls like that?
Or alternatively, unless I'm sounding really unfair, why not come up with a bleeding system that means that men like that cannot come into the country in the first place because they are going to sponge, they're misogynistic, and they're not behaving in the way they should, and we know that. But you can't say that, Mary, because that's deemed far right or racist or whatever.
But it would stop them making the excuse when they're arrested.
Yeah, I agree with you. Listen, great to have you on. Thank you. It's only a quick call today. You'll know why. 10 to 6, 0344 499 1000. Loads to calls to put on. Loads of texts as well. We'll get you on. Next, we got some sport. Hold on. How long's Dan? OK, Dan, quickly, a voice note to the ad break and sport next. Dan, go.
Afternoon, JK. It's Dan from Kent. Why is our country so soft on sentencing when it comes to these horrific crimes of, like, sexual assault against young girls, paedophilia? 12 months for sexual assault, yet Lucy Connolly gets 31 months for a tweet. It doesn't make any sense to me. Hugh Edwards, suspended sentence. It's not just one or two, it seems to be a pattern. I just don't understand how, for such horrific crime which ruins lives, can receive such paltry sentencing. Make it make sense, because I can't.
The number of foreign nationals on universal credit is estimated to be about 1.3 million people, right? Yeah. That's not a small amount of people at all. Right. And that's actually increased by 40% just over the last 3 years. And if you look at the overall cost of it, not just with universal credit, but with other benefits as well, if there is a foreign-born national inside just one household, that's costing taxpayers upwards of £1 billion a month, which is like £12 billion a year, which is more than enough to take a penny off income tax.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6 minutes to 6. Amy, 3, 2, 1, go.
Sports news from The Sun.
I have never known you be quicker off the mark. We say a very good evening to Mike Anstead, Sports Head of Content Deputy. Well, he's just a god of sport, aren't you?
In your words, Jeremy, I'll go with that.
Tonight, Carabao Cup, Alexander Isak, 130 million quid from Liverpool. Can he get off the mark? Who are they playing?
Well, they've got Championship side Southampton at home in the Cup. I mean, this is a given. Surely he's going to score a hat-trick. Maybe
It's a Shea. See what I did there?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is, you know, he's not quite under pressure yet, but 130 million, you've got to start banging.
He's only played one game, man.
A couple. He's had a couple so far, but he's looked a little bit leggy.
And Ekatike scored 3 or 4 goals and looks brilliant.
Exactly, they're hardly short of a striker. So look, this is a great opportunity for him to get off the mark. It looks like he's probably going to start. We'll find out in the next hour or so. This could be the start of big things to come. Let's see.
I'm gutted that Ryan's on holiday. Not that he's not here, but that we wouldn't have a chance to insult his Watford team, who are now in the relegation mire, almost as bad as West Ham, having lost to Millwall last night. That was fun. Mikel Arteta hits back at claims with the Sun. Claims Arsenal played with a handbrake on against Man City, but it looked like they did. It looks like they didn't throw caution to the wind, pal.
Exactly. You feel with Arteta, does he end up being the nearly man? Look, he's got a great squad. He's spent a load of money, 250 million quid. Just feels he's a bit rigid with the tactics. Has he got a kind of plan B? What are they doing?
And I think what Slot's done at Liverpool puts him under pressure.
Exactly. You know, Slot's gone in there in the space of just over a year. He's achieved a lot. Arteta, are we going to start veering towards the dying days of Wenger?
It's the eyes. I can't. You look at his eyes, and it looks to me scary. There's something not right. But a lot of people say I'm wrong. Coughing all day today. Any inside news on Graham Potter's future at West Ham?
No, not yet. I mean, look, he's under pressure.
Yeah.
They look like they're going to stick with him, but look, he's got Everton away on Monday.
Can I just make the point that every West Ham fan wants to make to you, right, Mike Anstead? We got rid of our most successful manager for a long, long time.
Who incidentally, on Monday night is hosting West Ham.
6th, 7th, 8th, 6th at the European Cup. And where did he go? Back to Everton, doing a blinding job there. We play them on Monday. I guarantee we'll lose to Everton, and I guarantee that will be the end. And if I was David Moyes, I would be sticking my middle finger up to West Ham, because I think it is the most ridiculous decision ever. It happened before with Pellegrini. Back he came. Fantastic job. I don't know what they wish for. Mess. Complete mess.
I mean, Moyes is one of the good guys in football, but I don't imagine he would hold back on taking revenge out on West Ham.
Absolutely agree. Now, listen, fair play to US Ryder Cup. Starts on Friday at, of course, Bethpage back in New York. It's going to be, I mean, there's so much coverage, 30 hours of telly on Sky. I know TalkSport doing everything as well. Interestingly, the mind games have started. And there seems to be this, and Justin Thomas, I think, one of the American golfers, has really put his foot in it today by saying this.
Yeah, so Justin Thomas has come out, and we all know that it's going to be a raucous New York crowd. We know that first tee, they're going to be in the Europeans' ears. You know, Europeans have been wearing these VR headsets to block out the noise and get used to it.
They haven't been blocking out the noise. They've been wearing these to replicate the noise, and it will be absolutely dreadful.
To learn to block out the noise, that's what I mean. But look, he's making the point of it's all very well having that crowd, but if we don't perform and deliver from the get-go, they could start turning on us. Wouldn't that be great?
Say that, Jake? That's ridiculous, right? Because if I'm Luke Donald, I'm thinking, let me tell you, I'm gonna put the best players out first thing Friday morning. I'm going to get points on the board, and I'm going to, because that is absolutely true. I lived in New York for 3 years. They will turn on you like brilliantly.
Well, look, it's like a Premier League game where you know the home crowd's going to turn. You go and try and get 1-0 up after 5 minutes, silence them, and then they start turning against their own players. So that's exactly where they are.
So you're a golfer?
I'm a terrible golfer, but I enjoy watching golf.
So what do you think this weekend? Ryder Cup, Bethpage Black home. I think only in the history of the Ryder Cup, only 4 times of away teams won. It's much more difficult. The crowd are going to be really raucous. The Americans have more players in the top 20 in the world. But somehow always, the European spirit or... just it's different class, man.
Exactly, and I do think we have that spirit. I think you're absolutely right. I think that first session is going to be crucial. If we can get them on the back foot, We think we've got the kind of characters. You know, Rory's playing well at the moment. You've got the big guns like Rahm in there as well. I think we've got a lot of decent experience. Donald's a great captain, making some very good, clear decisions. It'd be great. I think Europe nick it by a point.
Do you? I think it'll be close like that. I think it'll be like 14.5, 13.5. But I do actually think you're not here tomorrow. But will you be back on Monday?
Monday feels a long way away. It depends if Europe win. Yeah, if Europe win, I'll come back Monday.
See what I mean? I mean, how shallow's that? If Europe win the Ryder Cup, and also your team is what?
West Ham.
Yeah, I know. Give me a Monday night. Let's do it before the show. Are we going to win or lose that?
I can't see anything other than a comfortable 2-0 victory for Everton.
Yeah, and goodbye, Graham Potter. Who do you want, Nuno?
Nuno's probably the best on the market, I think.
Sean Dyche?
I think Sean Dyche is a great manager. I'm not sure... Look,
He'd keep us up.
He would, yeah, he would. I think Nuno's probably the best bet as we stand.
Well, they are. Two West Ham fans just talking rubbish and hoping their team don't get relegated. News at 6 next. Thanks, Mike.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, I've done this job for 3 years, and there's a lady called Amy, who's very responsible and brilliant. She does all the buttons and everything, and she smiles the whole time. I just asked her something, very sarcastically, went, "What now?" She's got it about her today. Quite scared. 0344 499 1000. Welcome to Talk Drive, here for another hour. The whole show dominated by what? I don't know. Is it dominated by Trump's scathing attacks on the UN? I mean, I thought it was fabulous. Addressing the United Nations General Assembly for the first time since 2020, the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, stood up, teleprompter boat, and there followed an hour of what many people listening and watching are saying was absolutely fantastic. He basically started by saying, all Democrats are a nightmare, I'm a wonderful man, and then he turned on his hosts and went, and you lot, the UN, it's not fit for purpose. You're supposed to prevent wars, not bloody fund them. All of you are allowing migration to ruin your countries. And then he went on and said, net zero and climate change is the biggest con job in the history of the world. It cost him too much money. And while I'm at it, Sadiq Khan is a complete and utter nightmare. I love this. Jason, what did you make of Trump's speech? Go.
Hi, Jez. It's Jason here from Lincoln. Loving the show, as always. I've got to say, I looked at Trump's speech. I loved the fact that he literally is passionate about his own country, but he also cares about what happens to others as well. And it must be soul-destroying for him, after 7 or 8 months, to turn his own country around so radically, to see other countries just not giving a damn, especially their closest ally in the UK. Starmer's not listened to the President of the United States. He's not listened to his own people. Yeah, I just couldn't fault what Trump said at all, especially on Sadiq Khan. Say no more. Anyway, good show, mate. See you soon.
Love your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. I'm slightly put off by the fact there is some breaking news. See what I did here? Danny Dyer's out of Strictly because she's broken her ankle. Right. Breaking news. See what I did there? Yeah, it's good. Back to Trump. Loads of you responding. Clive says, the UN is just another example of a quango, expensive, toothless, and only thinking about their salaries and pensions. They do nothing to help man or people apart from feathering their own nests. Colin Tupman from County Durham, man. Jez is totally right. No, Trump is totally right. Why did I say Jez? Oh, God. Hi, Jez. Trump is totally right. Like many others, I have Trump envy. Starmer is so bad. Is he trying to get fired? It's the only answer I can find. No one would believe they'd ever get away with what he is doing. Dan from Kent says, politicians used to be like Trump or Farage, Jez. We've had a quarter of a century of politicians convincing themselves the government is only one in the centre. Absolute nonsense. It's produced so much red tape, good for lawyers and bad for people. Chris says, evening, Jez, everything Labour has done to the British people since they've been in power is payback for Brexit. Just when you thought things couldn't get worse, Labour side with a state where terrorists are in charge. There is light, though, at the end of the tunnel, he says, and the answer is Reform UK. Tom in Kent, please let the Donald come here and be Prime Minister. He's what we need. And yeah, Khan is a complete tool and has ruined London. Ronnie Connett, I just think Ronnie Corbett sounds better. Has Crazy Ed Davies' speech at the Liberal Party conference sailed perilously close to hate speech? His reference to Nigel, especially his assertion that if Farage gets power, it will increase the chances of school shootings, is barking mad. Apart from the toxicity of these comments, surely the police should be paying Crazy Ed a visit, says Paul. Well, a man who can answer all that and more is the chief political writer for Spiked. We love him on. Brendan O'Neill, a very good evening to you, my friend. Yes, you should.
Hi, Jeremy. How you doing?
You should be dressed in black. The world's on its arse. Trump, where do we start? What did you think of the speech? Because apparently the teleprompter broke. It does take a particular person to be invited by the United Nations Assembly to talk to them for the first time in 5 years, to basically go, you're all a bunch of idiots and you're ruining your countries and the world. But actually so much of what he said, it landed, didn't it?
It really did land, because on a lot of issues, he's right. Love him or loathe him, and I think growing numbers of people quite like him. He's right on lots of issues. He's right that open borders has been a disaster and that Europe needs to change tack on that very fast. He's right that net zero is a costly, ridiculous, suicidal experiment that Western countries should get rid of as well. And he's right that Sadiq Khan is an idiot who's destroyed what used to be one of the greatest cities on earth. He's right on all those fronts. And I bet you lots of Americans who voted for him will be cheering along, but loads of Brits will be cheering along as well with everything he said.
It's interesting, isn't it, that for many, Donald Trump is this sort of orange man baby idiot who you know, let's be honest, let's balance this out. I mean, what do we have yesterday? Autism's caused by paracetamol. I just go, seriously, can you just concentrate on things that matter? Because that's where I think he lets himself down. But actually, net zero, climate change, I know this will upset Greta Thunberg, which will please me even more. I've said it, I know the world is changing. I happen to believe that the problems that we've got necessitate that we spend the money on things that are a bit more pressing. And certainly when you look at what we, you know, the carbon whatever that we let out as against Russia and China, nobody else seems to care. And then you get the amazing Mike Graham, my partner in crime, who stands up and says the other day, which is still the most fabulous thing I've ever heard, What happens when you get to net zero? Do you get like a medal? Do you have to then? Do you have to save more? What do you achieve apart from having spent billions of pounds further bankrupting our country?
Exactly. What happens? It is like completing a computer game, I suppose. Nothing really happens. You just get to the end and start again. You know, Trump says stupid things. No one in the world's going to deny that. I'm sure Trump himself would admit it if you showed him some of the old things he said. But there's two important things about his UN speech, I think. Firstly, it's funny. It's refreshing. It's such a change from the stiff, boring, spun politics we're getting all the time from Keir Starmer and others. But more importantly, it signals a shift to a new era. The era of globalism is over. Yeah. If Trump's legacy is going to be anything, is that he has reasserted the state, the nation, the idea of democracy against the cult of globalism. That's why he's attacking open borders. That's why he's attacking the cult of climate change alarmism, which is about how you can't have nationhood anymore because the problems the world faces are too big. He's taking down all these globalist shibboleths that have been around for so long, which we're all supposed to bow down to and never question. And he's actually just taking a hammer to them and smashing them. Now, to the ruling classes in the UN, that's blasphemy. But to the rest of us, is actually really refreshing.
I agree. I mean, look, there's another example today, and I suppose as the show goes on, one gets to sort of look in more of the detail, and I agree with you, the paracetamol thing, ridiculous. He attacks Sadiq Khan again, which in itself makes me smile, because I think he's an appalling mayor. I think we have all this virtue signalling in London, and we have the worst knife crime. He basically said he's a terrible, terrible man who's done nothing for London. London's an embarrassment, and he wants to bring Sharia law. I don't think he wants to bring in Sharia law. We've had a spokesman from Sadiq which says we're not going to dignify his appalling and bigoted comments with a response, although they have. London is the greatest city in the world, it was. Safer than most major US cities, and we're delighted to welcome record numbers of US citizens moving here. We go further, the health sector, I don't know if you saw this, Wes Streeting posted on X, Brendan, a picture of the pair, him and Khan, sitting on a bench at a London Underground station, probably was on strike, alongside Jas Athwal, the Labour MP for Ilford South. He said, Streeting, Sadiq Khan is not trying to impose Sharia law in London. This is a mayor who marches with pride, who stands up for differences of background and opinion, who's focused on improving transport, our air, our streets and our safety, our choices and our chances, and we are proud to be his mayor. Where do you stand on Sadiq Khan?
I think he's awful. I don't think he's trying to bring in Sharia law. I don't think he's...
No, that's your example of Trump, isn't it? That's too much, right?
Yeah. That's when he goes over the top and he says something for effect and it gets a bit of a laugh, but it's not true. That's not what Sadiq Khan is trying to do. But Sadiq Khan is an authoritarian mayor. He does brand people far right if they criticize his policies, like the ULEZ policy, for example, which is incredibly unpopular. We have to pay 12 quid a day to drive your car, drop your kids off at school. He is an authority. He does have these authoritarian instincts. I think they are kind of woke authoritarian instincts rather than Sharia authoritarian instincts. That's the difference. But you know, the thing is that Sadiq Khan talks there about Trump's bigoted remarks. I don't think we should take anything Sadiq says about bigotry seriously. When he turned a blind eye for 2 years to those horrible hate marches that were taking place every weekend, when Jews felt that they couldn't go into the centre of London, when people were on the streets of London calling for jihad, holy war against the Jewish nation, when there were placards saying the Jews killed Christ and now they're killing Palestinians and comparing the Jewish nation to Nazis, that was bigotry, and Sadiq Khan said nothing. So he can pipe down now just because Trump has said something he doesn't like.
I'm really interested, I know what you're going to say, but I want your take. Trump said, and I quote, that recognising Palestine was rewarding Hamas yesterday in probably the most unedifying things during my time of doing this show. We'd sort of all taken on board that Starmer decided on Sunday, the eve of a Jewish holiday, to announce that he was recognising the Palestinian state. And Harry was saying with his show he's trying to get hold of Jewish commentators and, of course, be like announcing it on Christmas Day. A lot of people talking about virtue signalling, allowing terrorists to find some justice in their cause by this decision. And then we come in yesterday, I'm in the middle of the show, and he put some pathetic mention on X in the middle of this public holiday, Rosh Hashanah. I always get that name wrong, so apologies. Saying, I love Jewish people, happy holidays, it's all about peace, the hostages must come out. We didn't call them sausages this time. And you just end up, and a lot of people think this is unfair, but you just end up thinking, You are so many things to so many people in your stupid minds. You've ended up, I'm afraid, yet again showing that you failed to be anything to anybody. And there I talk about authenticity again. I would have preferred my Prime Minister, if he believed this, right, Brendan, to stand up, recognise Palestine and stop sending arms to Israel, if that is his position. Or, I'm not recognising Palestine and I'm doubling the arms sales to Israel. But nothing. To me, that whole mess yesterday rather summed up to Keir Starmer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. He does things for effect. Yeah. He follows the wind wherever it's blowing. And what he's done this time is unforgivable. He has emboldened the enemies of humanity. He has done a favour for an army of anti-Semites that is devoted to destroying Israel. He has done a service to a neo-fascist militia, which as we speak is still holding people hostage and is still plotting the destruction of the Jewish state. He has done those people a favour, and we know he has because they're crowing over his recognition of Palestine. Hamas refers to it as the fruits of 7th of October. So well done, Keir Starmer. You put a smile on the face of fascists. You have made the men who beat Shani Luke to death for the crime of being a young Jew at a music festival on 7th of October, you've made those men very happy. You've done them a favour. So what he has done here is despicable. It's actually worse than Chamberlain. A lot of people are comparing him to Chamberlain. Neville Chamberlain, the appeaser, as he's often referred to, of the 1930s. I think what Starmer has done is worse, because Starmer has directly benefited the side in this war that we should be against, the side that is regressive, medieval, radical Islamist.
What do you say, just because I think it's important to when I speak to somebody as intelligent as you, I think it's always good to put the other side. What do you say to the people who do not agree with maybe recognising a Palestinian state, although we seem to be surrounded by people flying flags that don't think they know what they're talking about, many of them. I don't mean to disrespect, I think it's true. For the genuine people who believe that there should be still a two-state solution, for people who think that people should be working to allow both sets of Israelis and Palestinians to live peacefully. Yes, they would appreciate that Hamas needs to be out of the equation. What would you say to those people who look at what's going on in Gaza and they're so appalled by what Netanyahu's doing? They might, at the same time, find what happened on October the 7th disgusting and wrong. What would you say to those people?
You know, the two-state solution idea is still a debate that we have to have. Now, some people think it's dead in the water because of what Hamas did on 7th of October, and some people think you can't have a state like that next to Israel. Other people think it's still a goer, and at some point in the future, Israel and the Palestinian state could live side by side in something approaching peace and security. That debate will go on. But the point I would make is that for Starmer and Macron and the other leaders of the West to do this during a war, during an incredibly tense, bloody war between our supposed ally of Israel and this neo-fascist militia that wants to destroy Israel, to do it in that moment, that's geopolitical suicide, because that is harmful not only for our ally in the Middle East, Israel, it's harmful for us as well, because it sends a green light to radical Islamists, which says that if you want something, commit some violence and you might get it. If you want a state, kill a few Jews and you might get it. We are rewarding some of the worst terrorism that we've seen in modern times, and that's unforgivable.
I'm going to finish with two stories that have garnered even more anger and, I should say, response than Trump today. Let's start with, now, I'm going to have the camera on your face, so try to be enthusiastic. Sir Ed Davey. No, absolutely no enthusiasm, I don't blame you. He has claimed that Nigel Farage would roll back gun laws and risk US-style mass shootings in British schools. He says that Nigel Farage will privatise the NHS, destroy the British countryside, and in a Trump-inspired revolution will destroy almost everything, and has said, I'm so scared of Farage, right, that I even would consider a coalition with Labour to stop this madman being elected. Nigel immediately hit back, saying he'd not even thought about changing gun laws and calling the comments pathetic. Your response, Brendan O'Neill?
It sounds like Ed Davey forgot to take his medication or something. He really sounds like a man on the edge of sanity.
And it's near hate speech, if we're going to be. Lucy Connolly got 31 months, man. I mean, you can... Ridiculous.
It's this kind of... You know, the thing is, Ed Davey is the clown of British politics. We all know this. He's always doing those stupid stunts where he's hopping around or jumping on a some kind of weird speed bike or something. He wants
in a
to get
wetsuit.
attention. Yeah, and this is the new form of that. He's now trying to get media attention by really ramping up the fear-mongering about Nigel Farage. It doesn't work anymore.
No.
The idea that Nigel Farage is Hitler 2.0 and he's going to drag us back to the 1930s, that might wash with a handful of people who still read the Guardian newspaper, but most normal people who can think for themselves know that it's claptrap. They know that Nigel Farage is a pretty decent, moderate politician who wants to make Britain a better place.
And that word you've just used is my argument, and I've said this to anybody and everybody who questions me. I remember in the last election listening to a Reform spokesman talking about lowering taxation, and at that point it was the highest in 70 years under the Tories, and funding the police so that you've got intel, people on the streets, but policemen and women doing a job, not sitting behind a computer reporting hate crimes. You know, a military that made us not feared in the world but able to stand on our own 2 feet. And I remember a Tory MP saying, this is all far right, this is wrong. And I was thinking, no, it's not. That was stuff that I was brought up on. You've gone to the centre, and almost anybody that has what I call traditional Tory values has been deemed that. Now, I'm going to finish tonight, because I have to finish with this, because it'll send you straight through your ceiling. The asylum seeker who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in Epping outside the Bell Hotel, which started all those horrendous scenes, but actually these were mothers and fathers who today have been vindicated, has been jailed for 12 months. Hadash Gabri Selesi Kebotu, he'd been staying there. It'd only been a week since he arrived on a small boat. He basically was found guilty today, Brendan, of 2 counts of sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, inciting a girl to engage in a sexual activity, and harassment without violence. Today, we salute District Judge Christopher Williams, who said, I'm putting you in prison for 12 months. The Home Office say we're going to get rid of him. But perhaps the most frightening thing, and it justifies what people like you and I have said, despite all the crap that I get, he said, and I quote, I didn't know you weren't allowed to do that in England. That, my friend, is why you shouldn't be in my country, because if you are going to allow unvetted men in their 20s or 30s who have a very different view about women and how you should treat people into your country to disappear, I don't think it's racist, far right, or whatever else you get called if you have this opinion, to say, no, that's not right. And I'm going to go straight further with you, because I know that you'll tell me if I'm right or wrong. All those women that stand up quite rightly and talk about women's rights, I don't hear a bloody word today about that 14-year-old on that beach or that girl at Epping. I don't hear a word. Why not? Why are they taking the side, those people, of this guy? This guy should be out of this country this evening on the first goddamn flight. Done.
Absolutely right. We ferried him into this country towards the end of his journey here. We put him up in a hotel. We paid for his board and his food, and he turns around and sexually assaults young women in this country.
14-year-old. A 14-year-old.
Just despicable. He needs to go immediately, and if he doesn't, then this is not a serious country anymore. But you're absolutely right, Jeremy. Where is the outrage about this? Do you remember the Me Too movement, which was largely middle-class women, professional women, complaining about sometimes very serious issues of male behaviour at work? That was on the front pages of the papers. It was on Newsnight every night. It was in The Guardian every day of the week. As soon as working-class women and working-class girls took to the streets and said, there's been a sexual assault here, they were essentially saying Me Too as well. And they were ignored. They were demonized. Stand Up to Racism went to their community and protested against them. More like Stand Up for Rapists. That's what they should be called. These women were demonized for simply trying to protect their daughters from men who they don't know from faraway places. What the media said about those women is disgusting. And that's the reckoning we need to have. Why these people are so demeaned and never listened to.
Couldn't agree more. Brendan, it's always a pleasure. I look forward to our chats. I appreciate you so much for coming on. Thank you, my friend. 6:23. Drive time and talk. Have you say loads if you're trying to get on. Jez, wow, what a speech from Trump. He certainly told them numbskulls in the UN and Europe exactly what he thought. Kev's in Southampton. Josh Walker, good afternoon. Starmer needs to prioritise our country over the affairs of others, Jez. He has now gone too far. He needs to go. Get some guts, call a snap election and give us our country back. It's not going to happen. Becker in Norfolk. I think Trump's Khan and climate change speech was more of a veiled threat to Starmer. We all know he hates Khan and can't resist a jab, but it was more of, I'm watching you. Wayne in Lichfield, good evening, sir. Trump's speech was the greatest speech I've heard. Loving the show as ever. Hills? Southwest Wales? I don't know. 3 cheers for Donald Trump. I want him as my president. That's not going to happen. Nikki from Godalming's, posh, sorry there. Trump at the UN, I was mesmerised by his speech. He doesn't care who he upsets, he just speaks the truth. I just hope in a few years Nigel Farage will be making a similar speech. Loads of you angry as well. Afternoon, Jezza and Harry. 12 months for sexual assaults, 31 months for a Facebook post. What the hell's going on with our justice system? The judge should be looked at and struck off. Not the one... No. Listen, the one this afternoon actually sent this piece of rubbish to jail. How many would have gone, oh, what was that judge with the girl in Dorset? Oh, it's an aberration. He's had a bad upbringing. No, jail for 12 months and on a plane tonight, out of the country. Talk Drive.
Taking all those gifts from Lord Ali, of course, and then we've seen scandal after scandal, as you say. Even recently, Angela Rayner, which we exposed her wrongdoing, Peter Mandelson with his Epstein relationship, and now we're seeing this donation scandal, and it is a scandal. You cannot take donations from sources without declaring them to the Electoral Commission and then to the parliamentary authorities. This is wrong. It is clear what has happened. It needs to be investigated, and if found guilty, sanctions imposed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:27. No, it's not. It's 6:27. I can't even add up. I'm trying to do a message here. Julie Green-Jones, good mate of mine, listening in Barbados right now. She says, Jez, you're on fire, man. I'm loving it. Hard work. And she... right, this is true, as a hard-working northerner and the daughter of an immigrant, she loves this show, she loves Talk, she hates Starmer. Thank you for tuning in. Julie Green-Jones, big shout-out, 0344 499 1000. Matt's in Grimsby, 12 months for that scumbag who sexually assaults a young girl, and 31 months for Lucy Connolly's hurty words. What the hell is going on with our country? Good evening to Trevor in Harrow. I'm so shocked with this Labour government, Jez. It's like being on a Titanic 25 miles away from the iceberg, and instead of averting it, they're still aiming straight towards the iceberg disaster. Surely There must be somebody in this government that can see what is coming to this nation economically and culturally. Trevor, I actually genuinely don't think there is. Stuart in Perthshire. Hey! Don't know why I did that. Jez, the asylum seeker is sexually assaulted the woman and the girl. He spent time on remand, which amounts to 1/3 of his sentence. So he'll be a free man in Ethiopia within days or weeks. Don't start, because I'm just going to start ranting. Frank is from Beds. I guess that's Bedfordshire. I've no idea. Jez, if Dave is threatening to merge with Labour, then Reform may have to counter that with a merge with the Tories to make sure 100% they win the next election. Don't think that's going to happen. Franco Allen's in Luton or even Lincoln. Starmer can recognise Palestine, but he can't recognise that him and his party are ruining this country and everybody wants them out. Julie is in Haslingden. Will this guy serve the full 12 months or 40% of his sentence? True. Steve's in East Yorkshire. Just to point out that the migrant charged with sexual assault and jailed for 12 months will be out and back on the streets before Christmas, as he's been on remand for a few months. Yeah, I hadn't thought about this. Maybe the Border Force will seek to further remand him, pending removal or deportation. Neil Hine: if we're going to have to accept these sex offenders under our current regime, then let's chemically castrate them. Oh, it's getting better. Until such time that Nigel Farage is Prime Minister, but unfortunately the lefties and the ECHR won't find that acceptable. Now we've got to the point at 6:30 where we're talking about castration. Don't I love this show? At which point there's only one person to go to. I'm going to go from castration medically to a man who tries to sell himself as a US political commentator and a managing editor of Inside Sources. We know him only as the fake Michael Graham, the American Mike Graham, and we say a very good evening. We tried many people, ladies and gentlemen, but we had to end up with the man with the small bookcase. How are you, my friend?
You know, as soon as you said castration, I said that's why they booked me for the show. I understand completely. I'm right there. And being married, you know, I know all about that, so I can definitely.
Well, yes, well, marriage,
you know,
yes.
My bookcase, I like my bookcase. It's
Yeah,
very nice.
this is very true. Wonderful to have you on, mate.
Did you have someone on the, what was that, Henslingdale? What town was that you had someone from?
Heslingden. Why, have you been there?
No, it's just all I know about Britain is like when I lived from Monty Python, and I'm pretty sure one of the sketches took place there.
Monty Python.
Exactly like a Monty Python.
Monty Python. Absolutely. Now listen, we've had a bit of a moment here because the orange man baby, fresh from pumping the flesh and enjoying the pomp and the pageantry and very tight-lipped whilst he was at Windsor Castle and shaking everybody's hand and sitting there with Starmer, delivered, with a few mistruths, delivered quite simply for many people watching and listening to Talk today. One of the greatest speeches ever spent. He pitched up at the United Nations, your president, this afternoon. Invited, hadn't been there since 2020, and started by launching attacks on Democrats and talking up the US economy and saying how great he was. He then sort of spelt out his world vision, and then he thought, no, right, that's it. So he basically looked at them all and went, and you bunch of useless waste of space. You've done nothing to end the wars. I've ended 7. You're supposed to stop wars, not fund them. Then he said to Europe, you're all going to hell, right?
That's right.
Uncontrolled migration. You're a complete and utter disgrace. Then he delivered the coup de grace in many of my listeners' views when he said that climate change was the biggest con job since the beginning of time, and then he tore into Sadiq Khan. We think the Sharia law thing was slightly wrong, but he did actually say that he was the worst mayor in London and that recognising Palestine was about rewarding terrorism. He did that all with a teleprompter. They all sat and looked at their shoes, and the most powerful man in the world strode off the stage. What did America make of what he said today?
The UN's only given me 2 things: a broken teleprompter and a broken escalator. That's so true. You know, look, I think one of the reasons that speech resonated is because fundamentally, once leave out the domestic policy stuff where he's bragging about how he's doing. Once he got to the international stuff, he basically said, "You suck." That was his message. You suck, and all you do is talk, and things stay bad. How did Donald Trump get elected in the first place? How did America go from these nice kind of thoughtful, quiet, John McCain and Mitt Romney types to a crazy guy like Donald Trump? It's because people got sick and tired of hearing everybody. What was Barack Obama great at? Words. He gave a speech where he said, "Just words." Was it just words? And Martin Luther King said, well, yeah, it was. It actually was just words. But fortunately, Martin Luther King's words inspired action, and action mattered. Now, what's hilarious is Obama actually plagiarized that speech from another politician. So it's even, what even in his words? And so what Trump did is, for the combination of, look, you can't even run a teleprompter, you can't even run an escalator, you're still buying your energy from Russia while you're yelling at me that I'm not stopping your Russian war. What are you going to do? Action words. That's why the speech resonated. And that's why, sure, he got stuff wrong. He doesn't right. But someone else made this point. I'm totally stealing it. The teleprompter goes out. Imagine if that had been President Joe Biden standing there with no screen, just a blank. Or even Kamala Harris.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Do you know actually?
Still be talking, and it would be the same sentence. Like there'd be no periods.
Do you know? So bad was she. And of course, look, Trump, 90% of the time for many people speaks the truth, and 10% just ridiculous. But you're right. Can you imagine Kamala Harris right now dealing with the stuff that Trump has? I mean, many people over here saying that they wish that we had. Our Prime Minister didn't even go to the UN today because Trump would have ripped him a second backside, I imagine, having placated him for the last 2 days. What did you make, or rather, what do Americans make, not just in the administration but across the country, about the United Kingdom and others recognising Palestine? Because that's gone down like a cup of cold sick with the Donald, hasn't it?
And also with most Americans who support Israel. And the question no one can answer is, how does this help? Hamas, which governs Gaza, committed this horrific terrorist attack, killed more than 1,200 people, 1,000 civilians, took a bunch of hostages. They're still chanting death to Israel, death to America. Now, they could end the whole, once again, for the entire war, they could have ended the war at any time by just releasing the hostages and leaving. They could have gone to Qatar and, done with it, lived in luxury, whatever. And no, we want to stay, dig tunnels, and kill Jews. That's what they really want to do. And so to say to them, hey, we'll invent a magical Palestine, and one day you can live in magic Palestine. How does that help? No, I'm not, Matt, how you feel? How does that help at all? And none of the advocates for that position can explain how it helps.
We had this so unedifying sight yesterday, pal, where he'd recognised Palestine, and I was very honest. And if he does something right, I'll stick up for him. If he don't, I'll criticise him. I was brought up to believe that you're not supposed to negotiate with terrorists, but and I'm sure you're the same, have no desire. I hate what I see in Gaza, but I also know that the cancer that is Hamas, funded by the mad mullahs of Iran, are the reason why the only democratically elected state in the Middle East, which is in fact Israel, is under threat on all sides. And America's support has always been steadfast. But I always ask people this, and I'll ask you it. What do you say to the people who say, Netanyahu's off his rocker, it was all about a two-state solution, now that's gone out the door, this is all power-crazy madness, we hate seeing what some people would call genocide, and that's why recognising a Palestine state gives the people of Palestine a chance or a belief that there is a future. I'm putting the other side to you because I'm not
I'll take it. And war is horrific. By definition, it's horrific. It's the horror that's going on in Ukraine right now. Why don't the Ukrainians just quit? Why fight? Why have watch people come back wounded and dead? Why? It's because there's something that you believe is worth fighting for. And the problem is that there are enough people in the Gaza/Palestinian community who believe in we can have a country. They've been given the opportunity for a country repeatedly since 2005. 2007, Hamas took over Gaza. They could have turned around and said, we're going to turn Gaza into this wonderful place. It's going to be our own Qatar. They could have done what they wanted. But no, they want to fight for something. They want to fight for dead Jews. They want to fight for dead Jews so much that they will keep killing and watching their neighbors die and using their citizens as human shields. And that's why giving hope, not to the Palestinian people, but giving hope to that vision that there is a way where we can destroy Israel. Step one to destroying Israel, having all of it declared Palestine. Step two, forcing Jews to live in the same country where they're outnumbered by Arabs so that the Arabs control the government and the military. Step three, no Jews. This is an obvious path that we can follow. It is not the case that Israel doesn't want another country. Look, they're bordered by Jordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon. They're surrounded by Arabs all the time. Some used to hate them. Now they've worked stuff out, whatever. What they need is a place where Palestinians can live and not wake up every day going, how can I kill the Jews? Once that stops, that's the end of the problem. And unfortunately, you're not going to get there. So how do you defeat this idea? The same way that the UK and America and our allies defeated the ideas of fascism in Japan and in Germany. You have to win. And that's another thing that I think has been missing, and that's another point back to the UN. When Trump says, name a war you've ended. Well, one reason the UN would never end a war is they would never finish a war. They would never win it. They would always say, okay, we're at a point that we can stop, let the bad guys keep something, and then they can come back and fight us again in the future. Victory is the only solution. The UN believes in talking. The extremists in Hamas believe in murdering. Squishy liberals in the UK believe in appeasing. Where are the people who believe in winning? And there are two of them, crazy Benjamin Netanyahu, of course I don't agree with everything he's done, and crazy Donald Trump. Well, if the only two people who are fighting to win are the crazy people, I'll take the crazy pills, sign me up, I will join the Ministry of Silly Walks, I will run for office as Nigel Bing Bong Bing, sign me up for all the crazy. I will go full Monty Python on your ass if that's how we can have peace.
You like Monty Python. Final.
I love Monty Python.
He's been a very naughty boy. Have you ever seen that sketch where they chase John Cleese through the town going, Jesus, 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 and he runs in the house and his mother opens the door, there's 600 baying people going, Jesus, Jesus, and she opens the door and goes, he's not Jesus Christ, he's a very naughty boy now, bugger off. Finally, quickly, before you go, Jimmy Kimmel, he's to return his chat show after those Charlie Kirk comments that had him suspended for a week, but an old boss of mine, Bill Butler at Sinclair, many of the stations refusing to take that show now. What's your view on this briefly?
Briefly, the affiliates in the U.S., the TV stations, the vast majority are owned by local companies. They deal with local audiences, local advertisers. And across America, normal people do not want this unfunny jerk who felt the need just days after this guy was murdered in front of his wife and 2 children to lie about him and say, well, it was really those MAGAs that killed him. They don't want to watch him. They didn't watch him before. His ratings were horrible already. This is a short-term deal. ABC is just hoping that they'll get the whack job lefties and the unions off their back, and then they can quietly sideline him the way they sidelined Stephen Colbert.
What do you say to the people who say this is all part of Trump, Magda, and Republican president controlling the media and free speech? Final question.
I say one thing: the head of our FCC should not have gotten involved. That was dumb.
Brendan Carr.
It just makes things look ugly. Brendan Carr, exactly. Flip side: what do you mean fascist takeover? Who's going to be on TV tonight? Jimmy Kimmel. Who's going to be on TV today trashing Trump? ABC, NBC, CBS, everybody. I mean, the idea that we live in some country where people are afraid to bash Trump. You know what late night TV hosts are afraid to do? Not bash Trump. They're afraid. Why don't they have Trump on the show? Why don't they have Trump fans? Why don't they do jokes that make Trump's enemies look as silly as they sometimes are? Because their audience, which is that left fringe that's still watching them, wants to hear Trump bashed, and they get their Trump bashing. Absolutely.
Mate, great to have you on. I think you should run for president. I think you'd be marvellous. Because obviously the rest of your career is not going to... I'm joking. We love having you on. American MG, thank you. You'll never be cancelled. Right, what is it? 19 minutes to 7. This is Talk Drive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 16 minutes to 6 o'clock, no 7. I can't tell the time today for some reason. Kev O'Sullivan is here from 7 o'clock with his political asylum, and don't forget Harry Cole. Back at 10, Harry Cole saves the West, and that big announcement earlier, by the way, Hazza, as I now call him, Hazza and Jezza. Hazza's got Boris Johnson tomorrow, and he said earlier, via talk, via the website, text 87222. What do you want Harry Cole to ask Boris Johnson tomorrow? The man known as BJ in political terms. 0344 499 1000. It's that time of the night when all the women on floor 17 go, oh, he's here. John Lucas, night news editor from The Sun, now known as Sexy Sarge. How are you, son?
Very well, thank you.
He's grinning again. And Jodie came in and went, he's had a suit jacket on the last 2 days, haven't been able to see his rippling muscles. You do it. The women, I don't know what it is. What is it?
I haven't noticed that myself.
Are you joking? All your colleagues tell me you love it. You go downstairs and print all the emails that... No, I'm joking. Right, yeah, listen. Oh, my God. This is brilliant, annoying, and a sign of exactly what The Sun does so brilliantly. Tomorrow in the newspaper, taken for a ride again. Taxpayers stumping up millions of pounds for taxis taking migrants hundreds of miles across the country to see a GP in the latest racket to make sure they get treatment that people who have paid their taxis don't get.
Yeah, well, huge amount of migrant news around today. Obviously, we had Trump at the UN.
Just trashing the UN.
Very, very strange speech, but a lot of it was about immigration,
Yes,
talking on a global sense. We had this guy who, at the Bell Hotel in Epping, who'd sparked all those protests early in the summer. He was weighed off today, got 12 months.
Did you hear what he said? I didn't realise that sort of thing couldn't happen in England. Get out of my country. I can't... honestly, John, and I get called everything for saying this. How is that allowed?
Yeah, well, he didn't realise we were so strict here. It's very bizarre.
But as a journalist, I can't hand that. I can't... You were clever enough to get here. You're telling me you don't know that. And if you don't, it adds fuel to the fire of people who say these people who come from a different culture where there is misogyny, where they don't respect women, shouldn't be allowed unvetted. And yet if you say that, people on the left will say it was very, very racist. It's not racist at all. That today, all those people had to go at those mothers and fathers walking for their teenage kids need apologising to.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And we're there. We cover these things at court to shine a light on exactly what's going on. But the story that we're doing tomorrow, as well as all of this, is these revelations about the taxi service that some of the migrants are getting to GP surgery. So one of these issues that behind it is the fact that if one of them's ill, obviously you go to the GP. That's fine. Nobody's against that. But what then happens is they get moved to another hotel. They'll then be able to get a taxi service, potentially hundreds of miles, to the GP surgery. And it's crazy. There's cases where it's 250 miles, it's costing £600. One local authority had to spend about £350,000 in a year. That's just one local authority on taxis, which is insane. And we've
not for people. I mean, I'm asking you the question. Not for people of advanced age who can't get an appointment. They can't be taken by a taxi to another GP surgery. No,
absolutely. And we've been out speaking to lots of, ordinary Brits up and down the country about their experiences and, what they think. We actually spoke to one NHS psychiatrist who said, she's got patients with schizophrenia. They've waited years for a diagnosis, and that £600 taxi fare actually would have paid for that session. She said she knows of patients who've died waiting, and she called the whole thing, she said it was staggering incompetence. And again, we've done lots and lots of these stories about the costs and of some of the services the migrants get, and exactly, so some of it just doesn't make any sense.
No,
it's not logical.
Fiscally and morally, and the Sun has been at the forefront of that. Great work again. So taxpayers, you, my friends, are stumping up millions so that migrants can get taxis hundreds of miles to make sure they get a doctor's appointment. More on the Maddie probe, which I know the Sun's world exclusive pictures and story of Madeleine McCann, suspect Christian Brook, trying to buy a potentially untraceable mobile, made headlines around the world.
Yeah, massive story. I couldn't talk about this yesterday because we were still, obviously, big exclusive. We know rivals watch your show. We don't want it to get nicked. But Rob Pattinson, our reporter who's been on the case of Christian Bruckner, the prime suspect, for a year, he's over in Germany, still on this guy's trail. And if you read the paper today, you'd have seen Bruckner went to a mobile phone shop, spent about an hour chatting to this guy, bragging and saying, look, I could solve this big scandal, obviously alluding to the Maddie McCann case. Now, if he could solve it, why doesn't he speak to the cops? Because he's always denied involvement. It says he knows nothing about it. The other part of that is he was looking to buy a phone that in Germany they'd normally be linked to your ID card when you purchase a phone. He was trying to buy one that wasn't linked to his ID card, potentially a burner phone, exactly.
God, that sounded like a drug dealer then, the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I knew what I was doing then.
And
I've got a burner phone.
That's raised fears that he could skip the country. Now we know the Met Police are back on this case. We reported the other day that because the Germans had control of it before when he was in custody, we know British police are back on the case. They've been over to Portugal. We reported this the other day to speak to witnesses again. And you know we're going to have more developments on this.
He's done a great job, Rob Pattinson, hasn't he? And his nose says that there's more to this. And the Sun, the only leading newspaper in Britain, well, the only newspaper that's following this through. Not an awful lot of time. Both of those stories are fantastic. Cheryl Tweedy's killer stalker was jailed for 12 months yesterday after leaving the Star terrified when he breached an indefinite restraining order by turning up at a home for a fourth time. When people read stuff like this. It's difficult to put into terms what that does to you, by the way. I've had a similar... No, anyway, but it can be quite scary.
Well, look, I can imagine. I mean, I've never had anything like this. Poor Cheryl has been plagued by this guy. Now, he's a convicted killer. He killed...
A homeless man,
He killed a homeless man. The guy's Daniel Bannister. He's 50 now. He'd previously... It was a manslaughter conviction in the end. It was a very grim incident at a homeless shelter. He killed this guy. And he's been stalking poor Cheryl for years, keeps turning up at her house. He did a prison sentence. He got out, and he had court heard today that he believed that she had invited him to her home on Microsoft Teams. And he's turned up there, he's rang the intercom, Cheryl was in, and absolutely terrifying for her. So she's given a statement to the court saying, you know, this is unwanted and scary behaviour every time he comes. You know, the worry about what he's intending to do gets worse and worse, and he gets 12 months. I mean, it's the sort of letter of the law. It's what they can do within the.
Is it a fairly bad moment to say that this guy stalks Cheryl Tweedy, and an illegal migrant sexually assaults a 14-year-old girl, and they both get the same time? Maybe exactly not the newspaper, but maybe we need to have a debate. A posh, I love this, Cole Sees Red. This is brilliant. A posh French winery is toasting victory over Chelsea's Cole Palmer. Why?
Cole Palmer, well, look, goal hero, although he hasn't done brilliantly.
Needs a new haircut.
For my Sun Dream team this year.
Oh, is he your Sun
Dream
team?
Well, I started him and he was injured, wasn't he, start of the season.
You're an Arsenal fan, aren't you?
That's right, but I don't put too many Arsenal players in my team for tactical reasons.
Got the handbrake on.
Exactly, but yeah, Cole Palmer. So it's he wanted to trademark his name and his goal celebration that he does, the Cold Palmer goal celebration, and he wanted to make a whole load of a drinks collection, which included a wine, some sort of sparkling wine, and a very famous French wine producer called Chateau Palmer.
Chateau Palmer
was straight onto him, and
they've won.
Yeah, they've
given him the cold shoulder.
Absolutely. So they got onto the Intellectual Property Office, and he has been shut down with this. They said this is going to infringe on our good name.
He needs to eat a couple of burgers and have his hair cut differently. We look forward to the best paper in the land, the Sun newspaper tomorrow. An amazing story about migrants. They'll get a taxi across the country to see a GP, but don't you worry, you go to work tomorrow and pay your taxes. More on that Madeleine McCann exclusive. Rob Pattinson, great coverage there. And the Sun revealing today Bruckner has been bragging he can solve the scandal of the century. Cheryl Tweedy, her stalker jailed, and Cole Palmer. They've gone cold on the idea of wine. We did tonight with Anthony Gaffords. Do you want to say anything?
I haven't done anything wrong yet.
Yeah. Oh, bless. Joe, he's gone, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, you did, didn't you? He looks terrified, I'm joking. Good man. Talk Drive, 7 to 7.
This donation scandal, and it is a scandal. You cannot take donations from sources without declaring them to the Electoral Commission and then to the parliamentary authorities. This is wrong. It is clear what has happened. It needs to be investigated, and if found guilty, sanctions imposed.
The number of foreign nationals on universal credit is estimated to be about 1.3 million people, right? Yeah. That's not a small amount of people at all. Right. And that's actually increased by 40% just over the last 3 years. And if you look at the overall cost of it, not just with universal credit, but with other benefits as well. If there is a foreign-born national inside just one household, that's costing taxpayers upwards of £1 billion a month, which is like £12 billion a year, which is more than enough to take a penny off income.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
By the way, can I say thank you to the A-team today? Jodie's done a great job, Faith's done a great job, Amy's done a great job, Janya. What? Jana, she's done an amazing job. The bloke that was here was rubbish. Andy Linton, and he says, I live in Spain. I'm British, my wife's Irish. Hello. Why did I do that? To get residency, we had to show we had means to support ourselves. We are entitled to no free healthcare, no benefits, nothing, for at least 5 years, having never worked here, which I think is fair enough. Linda in Warmer, or is she called Linda Warmer? I've no idea. What possible benefit can that sexual assaulter be to this country? So he just arrives, accepts our charity and assaults girls. He should be put in prison in his own country, not soft-touch Britain. We need a tough government who will stop people like this getting in. Grandad, right? Would love to live in a country ruled by Trump or Farage, not by that drip Ed Davey. Jez, what if peace comes with a two-state solution? So what happens then? How is the peace maintained ad infinitum? How long before the same old arguments flare up? Well done, Starmer. You've achieved the square root of bugger all. Does anybody like Starmer? Barry's in Hornchurch. Brendan and Benedict, the best and finest political commentators by far. I guess you mean Brendan O'Neill and Benedict the Lord Spence. Jezza says Susie Ferguson. Susie Ferguson. What are the bets that the illegal jail today will be allowed to stay here on his release, as he will claim that he will face persecution due to his conviction if he goes back home? This country is horrendous. Susie, we did say earlier that the Home Office have already made it clear that they are going to push for his immediate deportation. Jez, great show. This fireman that came to our country, sexually assaulted 2 women and is now being locked up, is paving the cost for the year. Said today he wants to be deported. I bet you any money he says he can't return because his life will be in danger. Barry and Enfield agreeing. London remains the greatest and most diverse city on earth, much safer than most US cities will ever be. Somebody who agrees with Sadiq Khan. Jez, Martin, I hope people see this as Keir or Labour recognising Palestine as a state and not the country. I certainly do not recognise it, and I know I'm not alone. You are the best, Jez. I've met you multiple times in the audience. Oh, top guy. I hope you're feeling better. Warren is from Telford. Good evening. Jez, I'm thinking... yeah, sorry, mate. I haven't got... He's walked in again.